Jarvis, drop my needle.
Hello, this is the hardcore legend Mick Foley, and if you are interested in listening to idiots, you came to the right place. Have a nice day.
Woo! That's an attention getter.
He's a very strange young man.
He's an idiot.
What we're dealing with here is a complete lack of respect for the law.
Oh my God, he's an idiot.
You know, of course, that you're out of your jurisdiction.
Personally, I think you're an idiot.
But that's the evidence in the car.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Always like to keep my audience riveted.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, friends and fiends, and welcome to Free Range Idiocy, the podcast about everything, but mostly just the stuff we like. You know, it's been a little while since you've heard us talk a WWE pay-per-view, and there's a good reason for that. The product was a living embodiment of the Al Snow Big Boss Man Hell in a Cell match, objectively horrible and rightly forgotten. However, with the unexpected departure of He Who Shan't Be Named, and with Triple H at the creative helm, things have been trending upwards enough that your humble idiotic servants decided to plunk down some cash, re-up their Peacock oh my gosh. I would just leave this in because this is great. Like, he can't say Peacock. Re-up their Peacock subscription and sit down for some post-Thanksgiving mayhem. And we're here to talk it all through in this episode 119 Survivor Series War Games pay-per-view review. I am your Uncle Todd, and with me, as always, is the man who once upon a time could have told you the main event of any pay-per-view from the last 20 years by memory. He has been my partner in idiocy for almost 2 decades and is always ready for the hot tag. I give you the man they call Tim.
Greetings and salutations, my friend. And it wasn't just the main events. It was the lineage of the world title from the mid-'80s to probably the late 90s before it all just was like a hot potato that got handed around.
Yeah, before there was like a title change every other week. I mean, it's easy to say what the lineage is from the mid-'80s, like Hogan, that like One Day with Andre, Hogan,
yep.
Warrior. I mean,
well, that's what made it easy. You had longer term champions, and then when you got into the late 90s and early 2000s, then yeah, it was like some, like combination of Rock, Triple H, Austin, Foley, Rock. I mean, it was just
yeah. Very, very true. Very, very, very true.
It became too confusing to follow.
Yes, and you know what? We all run out of memories. Sometimes the filing cabinet's just full, man. That's just all. Just nothing else is going to cram in there.
How are you, sir? How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. I almost drowned in my own spit during that introduction again. I'm dealing with a head cold since like Friday or Saturday because my kid had a head cold, so therefore I'm just bound. The weirdest thing is, okay, so when we go back into the hot and heavy days of COVID, my daughter and my wife both tested positive for COVID.
Mm-hmm.
We were living in like an 1,100 square foot house. Like there was no separating. And by the time they tested positive, I'm like, I have been so exposed at this point, it's not even funny. I managed to dodge the COVID bullet when it was in my house. A head cold? Oh man, it just gloms onto me like freaking white on rice, just like and so I've been a snot fountain for like the past couple of days.
Oh boy.
Kind of getting over the hump. I'm planning on, after this show, taking a hefty shot of NyQuil and
gotcha.
Singing the Dennis Leary NyQuil jingle as I drift off into dreamland. That is the plan. But aside from all of that, doing pretty good.
That's good.
Good.
Capital N, small Y. Big old Q.
Big F and Q. NyQuil. We love you, you giant F and Q.
Oh, what a great bit.
I've got that routine in my head. It just it's there forever now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, no useful information, but, I've got that at least.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are going to talk about Survivor Series 2022 War Games, ladies and gentlemen. The inaugural, I mean, who knows if this will be the gimmick going forward. If it is, I'm kind of all in favor.
It should be. I mean, goodness gracious, what an event.
Yeah. So, I mean, we will talk about that. However, before that, we need to get into some things that are happening. This is for all of you non-wrestling fans, although we do encourage you to hang around for the rest of this. There will be jokes. Let's just say that right up front. There will be jokes.
Have jokes, will travel.
But we want to make sure we cover what little news is going on in the world besides Survivor Series. But we got that all in a segment called The Week in Geek.
The Week in
Feels so funky.
So what have we got this episode, sir?
Our first Week in Geek item actually is a little bit off the beaten path. Not Marvel, not Star Wars, not technical in nature or computer in nature. It is a little something from all of our collective past, and if it doesn't quite hit your particular past, then I highly encourage you check it out. But it is the sequel, if you will, to the classic Christmas movie, A Christmas Story, which apparently is called A Christmas Story Christmas. So
now, just to be clear, there actually was a sequel to A Christmas Story. There is a movie called A Christmas Story 2 out there.
Look at you I always learn something new from you, sir.
And you can probably find it in your local Walmart discount bin for like $1.99. It just looks horrific. I don't think anybody from the original movie was in it. It's one of those things where it's like, just forget it ever happened.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the movie Titanic 2. Just don't. And yes, there was a Titanic 2 movie, just in case you were wondering.
Really?
Yeah, it was made by that same studio that did the movie that we did the commentary track to, that is now in the vault and will never be released, because I don't believe either one of us were like compos mentis by the end of that, because we had to medicate in order to get through that. And by the end, I think we both messed up our dosage, something fierce.
I think we were deep in the throes of COVID at that point too. We were like locked into our respective dungeons, and
it was like quarantine, depression, plus just, it turned into like,
they did a Titanic 2.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the same.
Oh my gosh.
Studio, because it's the same shady, dodgy effects. But anyways, I just wanted to clarify, this is not a sequel. It's kind of more like a reunion, if you would.
Yes.
Which has been very popular over the last couple of years.
Well, and Peter Billingsley, who plays Ralphie, has gone on the record saying that this has been in the works for quite some time, because they wanted to get it right. They wanted to get the right story. They wanted to get the right, really kind of like I appreciate that they're trying to honor, and I got to tip my cap to them. It's a tall order when you're trying to follow something that is, really considered a staple, comfort food for the holidays, classic kind of movie, like Ralphie in A Christmas Story. So what I thought we would do is, the trailer came out a week or two ago, and just thought we would do, as we have done for Marvel and really Marvel, is watch the trailer.
Wow, we're really pulling out all the stops and originality here.
I know. Well, I guess we have done it for Star Wars too, but Star Wars shows are kind of few and far between. Here and there and everywhere.
True.
So,
and so we're going to pull this out for the movie, which goes back to our days as roommates in college.
Yes,
where Tim disbelieved, had the temerity, the audacity to doubt me when I told him. He turns on the TV. We're heading towards Christmas, and it was at a time when I don't even think it was it wasn't even like the day before Christmas. This was like the week before Christmas when TBS would run this. There was like 1 or 2 years where they ran it for almost a week before Christmas. I swear, a couple days before Christmas. And Tim turns on the TV. He's like, "Hey, look, A Christmas Story." I'm like, "Yeah, they're playing it 24 hours." No, they're not. Later on, about 3 hours later, like, "Hey, it's on again." I'm like, "I told you they're running it 24 hours a day." He's like, No. Like later on that night, turns on, he's like, "Hey, it's on again." I'm like, "I know it's on again." My God, have a beer and pass out, would you please?
Yeah.
And he finally believed me after like the 4th time he saw it in the span of like 12 hours. Like, well, maybe he's right.
That's funny.
That being said, this was also at the time when he had to come pick my ass up at the bar on a regular basis. So there's good reason why he's like, "Yeah, he doesn't have any brain cells left. The hell does he know?" However, I did happen to be right in that one instance.
You did, and lest we not forget, whenever Uncle Todd scores a W on the "Am I Right or Wrong" game, he does not let us forget it.
Oh no, I will beat that sucker right into the ground. I will drive it into the ground, and then I will dig around that stake so that I can beat it further into the ground. Yes, you're correct, sir.
It's like, get back here. We're not done yet.
Yeah, no. I need to shine on me for a little more.
Whoa, player.
Now I can either whoop your ass. Oh my gosh! One of these days we will have Charles Wright on the show. I that is like one of my dreams to have the OG Godfather on the show. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know what that would take, but maybe we can take up a collection, pass the hat or something. I don't know.
Indeed.
Anyway, so we are. I completely lost a train of thought of what we were doing. We're going to watch a Christmas Story Christmas
in real
trailer,
time.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I've got it queued up. Are you good?
I am ready to go.
Well, this is your segment, sir. Why don't you count us down?
All right. 3, 2, 1, and away we go.
Cleveland Street.
So I recently saw an interview where he talked about they had to recreate the entire neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it was a little surreal. Fragile.
Oh, my gosh.
It's like the best line.
Oh, yeah. Must be Italian.
Phenomenal. For some reason, like I know he's gotten older, but he doesn't look like the guy I saw in Elf. You know what I mean? Like something looks different on him. I can't tell what it is, but
well, I mean, he's not wearing an elf costume, and it's been 20 years since Elf.
Yeah,
I love that. Don't let him kick you in the face.
Don't let him kick you. I know. Kids decorating the tree. No, not child labor. No,
not at all.
I think it's
great.
Oh
my gosh. I did that this year with a tree.
Oh no, seriously.
Oh yeah.
Tearing up the ceiling. Gotta love it.
I love how they got Zach Ward back too.
I love it. Double dog dare you. That's phenomenal. I believe at some point we see a visage of Scut Farkas. So,
well, yeah, that's Zach Ward. Yeah, right there.
There it is.
Zach Ward of Titus fame as well.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
That looks like Billy Bob Thornton right there. It did.
And we have Ralphie laugh.
Is this like a bad Santa crossover? Do these exist in the same universe? Is there a Christmas universe? I need to know these things.
Well, it is.
I mean, because honestly, if we could tie this and Elf together, then you've got If somehow he wears an elf costume, then you know what? Maybe he actually Ralphie became the elf, went to the North Pole, and then he came back here for this. Then that ties in Frosty. And the Narwhal, and then if somehow we get Billy Bob Thornton here, that ties Bad Santa in. I mean, the possibilities here are endless, I tell you. Endless.
Thoughts?
I mean, I'll watch it, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, and by the way, next year will be the 20th anniversary of Elf. So yeah, in 20 years, I mean,
jeez Louise.
I mean, come on. Yeah, let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, we're all aging. It's happening. And you know what? Hey. Ugh. Oh yeah, and as suggested video comes up as A Christmas Story 2. It was in 2012. Like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
That has got to be horrible. What are your thoughts, sir?
No, from a trailer, looks interesting. It's great that they brought back all of the, as many of the original players as they could bring back, in terms of his friends and, as we talked about Scut Farkas and the gang. Although I'm curious how they're going to weave Scut into this, wearing the raccoon cap at, like this is supposed to be in the 70s when he's, I think in his 30s or mid 30s or something. So yeah, be curious how they work all that in, but I will have faith that they will do justice to the original, and then they will carry forward the spirit of what this film has meant to so many of us. And do I think it'll end up being an epic at the same level of the first one? No, because it's the first one was an original. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. It's an original. It's its own thing, and it became a cult hit because of what it what it was. And so I think it'll probably do its service, but I don't think it'll establish itself as its own kind of thing. I think it'll be maybe a nice coda to the to the whole sort of universe that is A Christmas Story.
Yes, I think that's a great way to put it, that it is a coda, because it's like the Fresh Prince reunion or the Friends reunion, all these different reunions that have been happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thing unto itself. And even though this one isn't like just them sitting around telling stories, it really is. It's just kind of that coda. It's the ending of it. And I mean, it'll be fun. I mean, I'm not looking for something that I'm going to watch every single year. I've already got those movies, and it takes a lot to kind of get into that pantheon.
Right.
But it'll be nice. It'll be fun.
Right.
And sometimes it's just nice to have stuff that's fun.
Exactly. And before, in our pre-production meeting, I was sharing how, Christmas with the Cranks, which is a Tim Allen, Jamie Lee Curtis movie, like that's become kind of an annual, Christmas rotation one for our family. But, again, some of these and I would call it a classic in the sense that it's something we always look forward to watching around this time of year. Would we watch it off season? No,
Mm-hmm.
But I think, what makes these movies classics or favorites for different families is the uniqueness of it. Like there is something different about it. It's telling, I don't want to say it's telling roughly the same story, but it, it's the stories that try to, put forth like a Christmas Carol-esque sort of thing, or whatever other sort of Christmassy tale, kind of the boilerplate, if you will, of stories like that. I think there's just a uniqueness to some of these movies when they come forth and kind of strike a chord with folks. Elf is a similar thing. If you just read on the surface what Elf was about, I don't know that a lot of people would have pegged it to turn into the classic that it's become, but it's very unique. It's very different. And so, I think this will be a fun watch. It'll be, nostalgic, no doubt. And it'll be, like I said, given some of the interviews I've seen, I have faith that they're going to put forth a good effort and it'll be a fun watch.
Yes, indeed. And for those of you who are thinking, I kind of wonder what that A Christmas Story 2 movie is all about. Here's the reason why you shouldn't watch this. It was made in 2012. And the one name in this is Daniel Stern. He of Home Alone fame. He's playing the old man.
Really?
This ain't gonna work out.
Oh.
And if you go further down, who is this guy? Alex Zahara. Does that sound familiar to you?
Is he the dude that was in like all these movies in the early 80s or something?
I don't know. He was in 2012, which, I mean, yes, feel free to hold that against him.
Oh.
But he plays Nazi interrogator.
In the Christmas Story 2?
Yeah, I'm guessing it's kind of like a dream sequence, sort of like when he's taking out the outlaws with the Red Ryder BB gun in the first one. But yeah, and the funny part is if you go to the IMDb page, A Christmas Story 2, like, they show a little bit of the trailer, and the trailer borrows so heavily from the first movie. It's almost like, please don't think that this, please think it's part of the first movie. Please. Oh, it looks so friggin' horrible. Ugh. But yeah, A Christmas Story, Christmas, I will definitely watch.
Nice. As will we. Our next item is a little something from Uncle Todd from a few weeks back. It was something he sent my way. I think it was in early November. And let me make sure I have the source right. I believe the source, this is a YouTube clip. We'll include it in the show notes. New Rock Stars is the channel. And this clip, I don't know if this is something, sir, that you frequent or not, or just something you came upon, but
just something I happened upon my daily YouTube viewings.
But they were talking about, piecing, I think, together from, I think some, I don't know if it's some, what's the word I'm looking for? Not dialogue. Sorry, some dialogue from either the trailer or I don't know if there was something extra that was released around Quantum Mania, where Kang kind of talks about and I have seen this in articles that there's a back and forth that he has with Ant-Man, where Ant-Man like introduces himself and he's like, "Have I killed you?"
Yeah. Yeah.
which has a creepiness unto itself, and if this is any indication, and I'm forgetting the actor's name, of my apologies, Jonathan Majors, thank you.
Which is funny because you usually have to remind me.
Well, that's what happened. Yes, with the Creed 3 trailer, as I had to remind you. But
you did.
Jonathan Majors, as we discussed when we did the Creed 3 trailer, watch, was man, can he play him some freaky dudes when he wants to?
Oh yeah, just unsettling.
Unsettling is the right word, and so yes. And in this YouTube clip, they talk about, I think what was kind of interesting was they reference back to I think it's the season finale of Loki, where we meet He Who Remains, and the fact that I guess someone noticed that in the background, you do see an Iron Man mask. And so it kind of, if you're piecing all this together, it's confirming that, Kang in different realities or different multiverses, is killing, Avengers, and in some ways, kind of keeping little treasures for himself, apparently, of his, or trophies, if you will, of those he has slain. So it kind of gives an interesting look into where we're going, and the fact that in some ways, I think What If has kind of prepared us for this a little bit. So maybe for the kiddos, it won't be as shocking. Plus we have Endgame, where Tony Stark does in fact die. I know. Spoilers.
Spoiler warning.
Oh, good Lord. But it's been 4 years. Watch the movie.
Oh my gosh, has it only been 4 years? It feels like 8.
4 or 5. I think it was just before the pandemic. It was the spring before the pandemic, sir.
Oh, my sense of time is so warped right now. It's just bizarre. Okay.
Yep. It's been eons. Yes. So yeah, just your thoughts, sir, on this. I mean, you watched this, sent it to me. I found it very interesting, but again, as we talked about when we watched the Ant-Man trailer, this is, I really feel like Quantum Mania is the buildup of the heel. You know what I mean? Like, this is where they're going to establish, Kang and all of the badness that Kang brings with himself. And quite possibly, I'm actually going to reel and jabroni this a little bit here, but I kind of have a feeling too that I wonder if in Quantum Mania, one of the strengths we're going to end up finding that Kang has is not so much that Kang on his own is dominant, but he has an ability to communicate with the other variants of himself to kind of dominate. You know what I mean? And I'm curious if we're going to, kind of see a little bit of that come through in Quantum Mania. But yeah, I think Quantum Mania is going to be not just the debut of Kang, but this is where we heal it up. And we get a real sense of how bad this dude is going to be. So, but what are your thoughts, sir? This was a clip that you came upon.
Well, I think it's interesting. I mean, number one, it's total clickbait. I mean, just this idea of like Kang killed Iron Man. Like, well, yeah, amongst other Avengers and all that,
right?
And they do.
Right.
They kind of go through, and it's a combination of stuff that was in the set for He Who Remains, and then also some production artwork, and then also going into the comics and all of these different source materials, and kind of coming up with this idea. And yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
In some aspect of the multiverse, Kang did kill Iron Man somewhere along the way. But I think it's interesting in that, because now we're dealing with kind of multiverses crossing each other and a crossing of the streams, if you will, that yeah, you're going to have this possibility of someone who's legit, like just almost casually asking, like, did I kill you in this universe yet? Which is, yeah, that's a badass opener right there. Got to admit, I don't care how strong you think you are. I mean, that's going to make about 50% of the population wet their drawers right there. Just, yep, and it's feeling warm down south. I think it's interesting. I mean, I agree with you. I think this is really where we kind of get the full impact of the villain. You know, I think this is because we kind of got it. We got a taste of it before in reference, and now I think it's going to be seeing that in action.
Yeah.
In Quantum Mania. And I think it'll be very interesting because I don't think it's going to come out right away. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll just come out right away and be like, boom, and here he is. I think there's going to be a little bit more of a build. Although, I mean, there is a case to be made that we already know he's a bad guy. So just come out and hit you right between the eyes with it. I don't know which it's going to be. But yeah, this will be the time when we're realizing like, oh, and this is a bad dude. And he's badder than Thanos in a way, because I don't know if he's going to have kind of that strange moral code that, even though it was very bizarre, I'm not sure Kang has any sort of code except for I just want everything.
Yeah.
So it'll be very interesting. I found it interesting background information. It's nothing that you really need to know. It's only I mean, if nothing else, is for folks like me who are into the minutia of this sort of thing, kind of, get excited about this stuff.
Yeah. And one other point that they called out that I missed, I'm picking this up from the description. So this is again from the new Rockstars channel. But they do talk about in the video clip that, Tony Stark's kind of nexus point, if we kind of weave in, kind of the terminology we got from Loki season 1, was his discovery of time travel. And
yes,
and they do talk about how for Kang to kill Tony has to be a very challenging thing, because if he kills him and he doesn't time it the right way, he actually then does himself in, because if he kills him too early, time travel never becomes a thing. And apparently this is something that is key for Kang to do whatever it is that he's doing. To your point, I think what would make Kang infinitely more powerful than Thanos, and a completely different kind of challenge for those that are fighting him, is that coordination with his other selves. I think that's something we haven't seen before. We haven't seen, in quite honestly, because we're just getting into the multiverse now, but I think it would be a very interesting aspect or angle to a villain, is to have some sort of, understanding or coordination with his other selves to, again, it's kind of that, go back to, A Beautiful Mind, it's when he has that kind of moment of clarity when he's writing his thesis, which is we're all going to, the needs of the group outweigh the needs of the individual. If we take care of each other, we'll end up in a better state. And so I'm wondering if that's going to end up being what we see with Kang, in that he and his variants are working together, which is going to, throw, I think, a lot of the heroes off, because they are probably just discovering their other selves in all of these universes and that sort of thing. So kind of an interesting concept. I don't know if they're going to play with it, but I think that would at least establish him in a very different way from Thanos.
Are you sure you're thinking about A Beautiful Mind or Wrath of Khan?
Beautiful Mind.
Okay. Well,
when he's talking about,
I've never seen A Beautiful Mind, so I'm just thinking Wrath of Khan, about the needs of the...
okay. So
needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and I'm picturing Spock on the side, on the side of the glass.
It's kind of the invert, like he's trying his character. Well, not his character.
You don't need to explain it. I was just trying to say, and then Russell Crowe and Leonard Nimoy look so much alike.
Well, that's true.
I mean, they both were in movies where, are you not entertained? Oh wait, no, that was Leonard Nimoy singing about hobbits. I get those very confused.
Very nice. All right, I think we've drained this orange as much as we can.
Yeah, let's move on. We got
right,
nothing but pulp
last
now.
One. I've been borderline harassing Uncle Todd about watching the remaining episodes of Andor, and we will have a full Andor review next episode. But wanted to just kind of touch on a article from ScreenRant.com, but from episode 10. Basically a moment in that episode between Luthen and Saw Geurrera, really kind of laying the groundwork and the foundation for poor Saw's paranoia. Are
you here to kill me?
It's like lies, deceptions. You're all out to get me. Oh my gosh. But in episode 10 of Andor, spoilers if you haven't seen it yet. Luthen confronts him about, not going and assisting or taking part in Anto Krieger's, assault on the space house installation. And because of the fact that the Empire is going to ambush him, and really kind of establishing, again, one of the things I've so enjoyed about the Andor series, really kind of surfacing the complexity that exists for the rebellion, and this was an aspect that was surfaced a little bit in Rogue One when we saw some of the gray morality that Andor was kind of working with, like shooting and killing someone who is going to
like the opening scene
in the opening scene, absolutely, and
like 10 minutes into the flick, and the good guy's already got one kill of someone who you're like,
of a good guy.
I'm pretty sure he wasn't an Empire.
Yeah.
He wasn't an Imperial.
Yep.
What the heck is going on here?
Yep. And so we start to see a bit of the complex morality that exists when you are trying to, really kind of outfox, what is this growing power in the galaxy. And Saw understands, Saw gets on board, but I think, Saw is going to, I'm curious in season 2 if we're going to, they are going to time jump a year. And I'm wondering if in that year, if Saw's a little worse for wear, so to speak, as well as, because we're only 5 years out from Rogue One. So Saw is looking pretty good right now. He doesn't look so good when we see him in Rogue One.
Oh, no. That's going to be a rough 5 years for him.
Oh,
Those are high mileage years. Oh. That's like the difference between you and I having a car for 5 years and then like Avis Rent a Car having a car for 5 years. That's going to be some hard road right there.
Yep. Hard times.
That's hard times, baby. Hard times.
Thank you, Dusty. Oh, goodness.
Which actually, not to sidetrack here for a second, but I rewatched Ladies and Gentlemen, My Name is Paul Heyman the other day. And oh my gosh, him talking about like managing to like sneak his way into the production meeting.
Oh yeah.
With Dusty Rhodes, and then Dusty pulling him out in the hall and him saying, well, I'm here to learn from the best. And he's like, and at the same, he's thinking like, he's going to kick me out. I'm going to have to take a bus home. All this is like, well, you came to the right place. Could that from a production meeting run by the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and I am the best it was. Now it's just like Dusty just like starts cutting a promo on him. Like,
oh my
okay,
gosh.
All right.
That's right.
Anyways, but oh my gosh,
That's
Dusty.
right.
Oh, Dusty.
But
paid tribute by Kevin Owens, as we'll talk about later on.
Absolutely. But yeah, sir, your thoughts on that scene and its impact on the Saw Geurrera character.
Well, I think it's interesting because the other time that I've seen Saw Geurrera, he was included in Star Wars Rebels, and I felt that Saw was not as easy to bridge from where he was in that show as where he is in Rogue One. Now, granted, you could say, oh, it's an animated kid show. Well, as Jimmy Dice had explained to us, by like season 3, they kind of were like, okay, it's not necessarily a kid show. They start getting more adult. It's more grown up after starting with season 3. However, seeing him in this series, I'm like, okay, I am definitely seeing how we connect the dots now. Because even before he understands that Luthen is ready to like sell out Krieger and like 30 rebels. Like, I mean, we're talking about 30 plus people who are going to die.
Yeah.
And like knowing that's the trade for this one asset that he has spent 5 or 6 years cultivating in the ISB. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, but you see Saw already is a little bit unbalanced. Like in their previous meeting, he's telling him he's not going to do this, he's not going to do that. And then all of a sudden he's like, yes, I'll do this. And he's kind of like half paying attention to Luthen. Like Luthen literally has to put a blaster under his chin to kind of get like Saw like, okay, focus. Look at me. Look at me. Look at Saw. No.
Yeah.
Don't look at Borgello. Look at me. Borgello. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Like Saw is all over the place already.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, I can kind of see now how we get there. like that nervous energy and everything, and then you add paranoia into that. Oh, now we've got a recipe for some stuff to go real sideways,
and
which I'm digging, because I like the fact that like he sees this. And the thing is, like the rational, you can see the gears turning. You can, and this is why, number one, Forrest Whitaker, ladies and gentlemen.
That's where I was going to go.
One of the great unsung actors of my time on this planet thus far. Forrest Whitaker does not get nearly the amount of credit that he should for just being able to do all the little things. Like if he was think about it. If he was a professional wrestler, who would you compare that to? Like one of those guys who just does all of the little things right. And might not be necessarily the biggest, splashiest guy.
Honestly, Jake the Snake Roberts. Never won a title.
Yep.
Never achieved what people viewed as success in the industry, but one of the legends because of what he did in a performance, and promo standpoint and match and in-ring work standpoint.
Yeah, and just a lot less cocaine.
Well, that too.
I'm guessing. But no, Forrest Whitaker is so good in this, because as he's going through this, and this is what I mean by like great acting performances, is when you can see someone thinking in character,
his face
on screen, you see them working it out, because that's what happens in real life. You can watch that happen with people, and it's augmented because that doesn't necessarily happen, because again, like who wants to watch real life in a movie? I want to watch cool stuff. I got enough real life staring me in the face every single day. But you see him realizing, like, the rational side of his head is like, this makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't like the fact that this makes sense, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
And then also knowing, like, and the only reason you're saying you wouldn't sell me out is because I could hurt you. But there's a point when that's going to not carry as much weight as the benefit of something else. And then you're like, yes, now we have all of the ingredients to get us to Rogue One. There's not so much left of me. Like the kind of like just frazzled Saw Geurrera that you see there.
Yep. You
kind of, now I'm like, oh, I don't know what the dots are between here and there, but I can at least see a path.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm so good. And I mean, gosh, the other thing to talk about, and we will talk in depth about this, but Stellan Skarsgård.
Oh, jeez, it's like a tour de force in that show, man.
He needs some sort of award, because and actually, I think you were talking about episode 11, because episode 10 is the one where he has that huge speech where the guy comes down in the turbo lift.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. It's 12 episodes. Yeah, I was off by one. You're right. Yep.
And that one there, that little monologue, I was like,
everything.
Just hand this man the freaking Oscar for something.
Yep.
Like, come on.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so good. Yeah. So good.
Yeah, but when I rewatched episodes 4 through 12 with my younger son, because he hadn't seen them yet, and over this weekend. And as we were watching, when we got to those episodes, and I'm seeing this again, and just like you said, Forrest Whitaker's acting, like his face communicates so much. Like he's looking at Luthen like, you're going to do this to me one day.
Yeah. Or at least I'm pretty sure you would.
Right. And
given the right circumstances.
But he gets it, because in Luthen, much like Thanos, makes an argument as twisted as it sounds, that is somewhat logical, which is he's trying to keep the Empire high on their horse, not feeling that something is amiss, so that they can continue to do the work that they need to do. Because if they start to feel that something is amiss, it is going to upend their plans. And Saw gets it. But you brought up a really key point in that exchange, which was, as Saw is starting to ramble and kind of go on about what he's, the impact of this decision. Yeah, Luthen is kind of like trying to rein Saw in, like, Saw, focus. Like he. And not in a demeaning way. Like when I saw it the second time, he legitimately is like, trying to I don't mean to say care for Saw, but the way he says it, there's some empathy in his voice. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a diminutive thing. It is a Saw, you're wandering, please come back. I'm trying to help you understand something. You know what I mean? Like, you can tell he has a respect for him, you know?
Oh, yeah. But the interesting thing is here, normally you see a conversation like this happen and you've got the one true believer, and then you have the other person who's supposed to be the empathetic, more rational person that you kind of identify with, like, surely, no, this is not the way it should be. Here you have the conversation between two true believers, two people who are perfectly willing to do very horrible things in the name of their cause. And seeing that work of them both explaining that and both understanding it and coming around to that, like, that is not a conversation you see happen in stories very often.
No.
Usually it's true believers from opposite points. If you get that, you get the two radicals from opposite ends of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
But here you've got them both on the same side.
Yep.
And they both have to work, and you see one coming around to it.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're going to see, like, what the fallout from that is, because I don't think Saw's as well balanced as Luthen. Although, I mean, Luthen could go off the rails too in a spectacular way too.
Well,
I mean, and all that veneer is going to drop at some point.
Yeah, and you know, one great line that from the Screen Rant article, I was just scrolling through it, or a title that they have in the middle of it, which is great, is Saw Geurrera's paranoia shows how miraculous the rebellion is. And it's true, because they're playing a very House of Cardish kind of game here. You know what I mean? Like, they're letting certain things fall because they want certain things to stay up, you know, and when are you going to make that move that you think is going to keep things going, but is actually going to be the thing that takes you down, you know? And so I think this was, and we'll get into it in the next episode, but I think this series did an amazing job of, because I've heard this expressed by you know, friends and family who enjoy Star Wars or don't enjoy some aspects of it, but just saying like you know, they go to Star Wars for hope, you know, for entertainment. Mm-hmm. And I think they did a nice job of balancing the reality of what the Empire was with the hopefulness of what needs to be or what needs to be done in order to overcome that darkness. You know what I mean? You know, like with Last Jedi or with Rise of Skywalker, where it's, you know, hey, I have enough darkness in my reality. I don't need to go see Star Wars, you know, kind of make me feel bad about Luke. Well, this wasn't just about the darkness. It was about rising up against the darkness, you know, and what that entails. And so, and you know, what I think Luthen and Saw kind of encompass is the not so clean nature of how that works. You know, it is not a, you know, Han and Leia and Luke. We look at that. Like I said to my younger son this weekend, I'm like, after we watched episode 10 and Luthen gave that speech about his sacrifice, I said, yes, these movies were made before this series, but to the point of the character and what he said, you don't ever hear Luthen's name mentioned with Han, Leia, and Luke. No one talks about a Luthen because of the sacrifice, you know, and like, that's the sacrifice he's talking about. He knows he's not going to be a recognized, like, he's not going to, you know, reap the laurels of what he's doing. He's probably going to die before he sees any of the fruits of his labor. Yes. And that is, that was just very poetically and eloquently kind of done by the writers and producers and directors of this series, is to tell that story and really kind of shape how complex the rebellion really is, as opposed to the kind of black and white sort of view we all had of it when it first came out in 1977.
Agreed. And we will talk more in depth about that in our next episode, as you said.
Indeed.
And I'm only cutting us off there because we need to have a little meat in the bone before we get to that.
I know. We got off on the, you know, I kind of feel like Saw went off and got Boar Gullet after that conversation, but
I was really hoping that we would get like a little baby Boar Gullet just like poking out of his pocket or something, like And we'd have like Baby Yoda and Baby Borgullet. Like, you tell me that wouldn't sell a bunch of plushies.
Oh,
well, maybe not. I don't know if a Baby Borgullet would be as cute as Baby Yoda.
I don't remember what form Borgullet is in, if it's a form that is pleasing to the eye or not. So
not really. No, it was kind of scary all around. But we are but yes.
Well, I sorry, I need to wrap the segment up, and that, my friends, is the Week in Geek.
Yes, indeed it was, and thank you, sir, for your sleuthing and
thank you.
Slothing and slurping, or whatever it is that you do, navigating the interwebs and finding all that information for us. We do appreciate it. Now we are going to get on to Survivor Series War Games 2022.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness, what a journey it has been to here. And I want to note, first and foremost, out front, this is a return of sorts, and not just because this is the first WWE pay-per-view I've watched in all the premium live event. I'm still going to call them pay-per-views because, damn it, I'm 46. There's some things that I don't have the room to overwrite in my memory. So it's pay-per-view for me. Go ahead and correct me in your head if you feel the need. But not only was this a return for me watching a WWE pay-per-view, this is like getting back to my roots, because I remember watching my first ever WWF pay-per-view, and it was Survivor Series, and I'm pretty sure it was the first one.
Nice.
And I think it was like I begged and pleaded my parents to finally let me watch one of these, and so this is kind of like me getting back to my roots. So I was very excited for this. My wife, not nearly as much. She was very condescending as far as me wanting to watch this. But oh well, that's fine. I had my TV and I had a nice little tot of bourbon, and I was all set for this. So it was great. And right out of the gate, I think both of us agreed, because we were like live texting through this whole thing, because we actually did both have a chance to watch it live.
Uh-huh.
And I think both of us were very impressed that we got not only like Black Sabbath's War Pigs as the theme song, which of course, like, one of the most iconic hard rock heavy metal songs of all time. But not only that, but like the personalized Ozzy Osbourne intro, like Ozzy on set doing Ozzy things. They like pulled out all the stops on this one.
Oh yeah.
It really felt like Triple H was like, you know what? It's one of the big four. Let's call in Ozzy.
Absolutely.
Let's see if we can actually get him so that he's aware of where he's at. Can we do that too? Can you maybe like splash some cold water on, make sure he understands what he's doing? Oh my gosh, such a great intro. Such a great intro for this show. Oh man, so just the hype package, all of it, so well done. So well done.
Yeah. You know, if you couldn't tell from his past entrances when he was, an active wrestler, Triple H is definitely a product of the 80s, product of that metal era, and really brings that into his act as well now into the product. And yeah, bringing.
Now you say that, wouldn't you love it if you like someone asked him about his favorite bands and he was like, I really dig the Carpenters, Simon and Garfunkel.
Nah, come on now. He's too much into Lemmy to
that'd be great if you like at a function and like Steph was there and she'd had a couple White Claws or whatever she likes to enjoy. I don't know. I picked White Claw at random. But I'm guessing because of the low carbs, because I mean both of them are so into fitness. It's kind of frightening.
Yeah.
But you gotta like, what does Triple H really listen to? She's like, he likes Taylor Swift. Oh my gosh, it's ruined millions of fans.
Oh, my whole view of you has changed.
Shake it off, shake it off.
Oh, good Lord.
That's like the one Taylor Swift song. It's from like 15 years ago or something, but that's the one I know. Anyways,
I did love in conjunction with having Ozzy, part of that and War Pigs as part of the intro and everything. I absolutely loved. I caught some of the pre-show and also in the middle of the event when before the men's War Games. I love the siren going off indicating War Games was about to start. So.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And they
good,
and they let that sucker rip for a while. I mean, I half envisioned Jimmy Mouth of the South Heart running around the ring with his megaphone siren going. I mean, like that's what I remember from back in the day.
He was probably on the phone like, that's gimmick infringement, man.
baby. Oh my gosh.
That's right. Oh my gosh. But yeah, it was a great hype package. A great crowd in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
The crowd was really good.
Oh, they were. They were.
And a sold out show. Although, I mean, granted, I did happen to look up the tickets earlier that week, and Ticket Bastard had them up. I think the cheap seats were like $150. So who knows? I mean, they're a little shoddy on how things are working. So who knows if it was really a sellout or not? I mean, I don't know if anyone trusts a Ticket Bastard these days, but oh well. They announced it as a sellout, so I guess we'll go with them. But sold out Boston crowd. And like you said, as soon as the sirens started to go off, that like everybody knows, you see that cage coming down. It's like, damn, this is going to be something special.
I mean, just the sight of the two rings together was just so different and so cool to see. And
I liked how they had like they alternated rings for the non-war games matches. That made things interesting. Although it was interesting because you could tell that some guys just out of habit went to the closest ring first and then realized like, damn it, I'm in the other ring. Had to like walk the entire apron and make it good. I think Austin Theory was one of the prominent ones that I noted where you could tell he kind of went on like instinct and it was like, whoops.
I gotta hop over the middle here. Hold on.
Yeah. But yeah. So it was just an overall very different vibe, and I was digging it. I thought it was great.
Absolutely. 100% agree.
So it was very interesting how they chose to have the card, the order of the card, I guess you'll call it, because I'm very much a person who thinks like album order. I think the order of songs on an album is important. I think the way that you kind of order things is its own sort of thing, like poems in a book or whatever. There is and should be a kind of order to that where you're building, you're trying to take people on a journey. And I really thought it was interesting how they had the War Games matches bookending the show. I thought that was a great way to do it, especially because those are the longest matches of the night. So you kind of have to like have some other stuff happen in between there. Like if you put those back to back, good God, people will be dead.
Well, and
midway through the second match,
and just to for listeners who may not know how the match is structured,
yes,
because I even learned this when
it was
I was
good that they had the rules right out in front.
Yeah,
I thought that was great, and they left them up for a long period of time, so you could actually read through them.
WWE breaking out the rule screen.
Yeah,
but basically you start out with one-on-one, of course, from each team for the first 5 minutes, and then every 3 minutes thereafter you have another member alternating from each team. So one team has the advantage. So
wasn't it like 3 minutes and then it went down to 2 minutes, I think, after the first one?
Oh, was it? I thought it was 3.
I thought it was.
Because if you do 3 times, okay, so it's 10 in all. You start out with 2, so you have 8 left. So if you do 3 times 8, that's 24 minutes. Along with the 5 for the first one-on-one. Where I was going was you actually have like 30 minutes of the match is just the pre-fighting.
Yeah, and you can't have a submission or pinfall in that time until all of the participants are in the cage.
So this match at a minimum is 30.
Crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
So
and I liked how they did. They announced all those rules up front, which was great. And then some of the commentating, I'll give you, was a little repetitive, but not when they were announcing when they were reminding you of the rules. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could only take so many of like, this is the first time we've ever had War Games. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. Calm down, Cole.
Yeah.
Rein it in. Good God. I can't tool on Roman Reigns anymore, so Michael Cole's going to be my new friggin' just voodoo doll I'm going to start jabbing pins into. He was
wise man, give me Zayn.
Oh my gosh. And I love how that's like, wise man, yes, my tribal chief. I just
because Heyman doesn't just say yes, my tribal chief. He says it like a sniveling underling. You know what I mean?
Well, not really a sniveling, like a devoted, like a devoted true believer. Like he just, the way he says it.
Sure.
Yes, my tribal chief. Like there is a solemnity to it, which is what ratchets it up. It's like, this is why this guy is the premier talker, orator, raconteur of the last like 30 years of wrestling. And the fact that like he can have like such an influence on what's going on when he's just in the background through his facial expressions, and he's enjoying the living hell out of it. That's what I love.
Yeah,
that's what I absolutely love.
Oh yeah.
But all right, let's get through let's talk through some of these matches here. So the first match of the evening. Oh my gosh. I kind of wish that they'd flip-flop this one. I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to give too much away of what I think of the last match, but man, women's war game match was the first match of the night. Siren going blaring in the garden as we brought down the double cage. This was Damage Control, Nikki Cross and Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair, Becky Lynch, Asuka. My gosh, I still mess that up. Alexa Bliss and Mia Yim. Damn, what a match this was.
Oh yeah.
My pick for match of the night. And I'm just going to say that right up front. This was my favorite match of the night. Partly because I thought it was great to see Bianca Belair start out the match, really look strong and take her licks and make a couple of comebacks and be strong throughout the match, because I really, to me, this is like the difference between Vince booking and Triple H booking. Vince was there when they decided, hey, Becky Lynch is coming back. Let's have her beat like this tremendous babyface, this hero, this like person that we're building up as like the strongest, the fastest, like the EST, the whole gimmick there. Let's have her beat that person in like 10 seconds. It's so undercut that character.
Yeah.
Like there's got to be another way you can do this, you know? And not even like a gimmicked 10 seconds, like, oh yeah, and she hit her with a chair and then pinned her or whatever. No, just out and out, just one slam and beat her. To me, this was a great way to make Bianca just look so strong. And yet, still look mortal. Like it wasn't like they she hulked up or anything like that. But it made her look strong. Like it just reinforced everything you thought about her as a character.
Yeah.
And she looked incredible through the whole match. It was great. Like, but it wasn't so dominating that you're like, oh, well, yeah, it was all about building up. No, they managed to do multiple things in this. And one of them I thought they did really well was make Bianca Belair look like $1 million. I thought, but
yeah.
And I mean, I honestly thought she was like the MVP of the match. Just for that strength and being kind of the anchor point for the rest of the match.
Yeah, I can see that.
Although I will say, Io Sky came real close to being the LVP of this match.
Oh yeah.
She had a couple of botches there where I was like, "Woo, she's off." Like way off on a couple of moves and a couple of spots where I was like, "Is she all right?"
Yeah.
Like, does she have vertigo right now? Because it seems like she's having trouble holding balance. And it was like that one dive off the cage that kind of like saved her from that spot of me just going like, she sucked.
Yeah.
Her and Asuka going back and forth. They're teasing this match apparently forever. But I mean, aside from that and the dive off the cage, very meh the rest of the match, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of felt Io and Dakota. I mean, Dakota later on had some interesting stuff, but yeah, Io Sky looked just like I don't know, something was I don't know if it was timing or something else, but something was off. Like there was one point she just climbed to the top and then she just kind of hopped down or didn't execute whatever it was she was going to do. It something seemed really off there.
Yeah, was that on the turnbuckle or was that in like the corner? Because I think
the corner.
There was a point where she
went up like she was going to do some sort of top rope maneuver, and either I don't know if she slipped and fell or if she just kind of jumped off. It was just kind of weird. And Cole tried to cover for it saying, oh, they don't, it's a whole new environment. They don't know what they're doing. I'm like, it's still a square ring, Michael.
Yeah. But you know what? That's the time when I got to give Cole some credit, because I mean, that is a lot to cover for something in real time when in your head, you're like, oh my gosh, how did you F that up?
Yeah.
you know? Yeah. I mean, so I will give Cole a little bit of credit, like a modicum of credit.
Asuka, it's been a couple of years since I've really seen her in action, because I mean, I don't think we've really watched pay-per-views in the last year and a half or close to 2 years. But I mean, still a house of fire when she comes in. She brings the energy and really tries to get the crowd amped up, and so seeing her come in and evening it up at 2-2 was really cool. I wrote a note to myself, like you said, Bianca being the MVP. I gotta say, say, when Bianca was throwing some of those ladies into the cage, I mean, I have a note here. Bianca using the cage with stank. I mean, she put some stank on it when when she threw them or when she was using it. I mean, I think at one point she even did her finisher where she threw someone like into the cage, as the finisher. It was crazy.
No joke. She's a badass.
Oh yeah.
She is a bad, like, when I thought it was interesting how, like, you go back, they were talking about, when Kurt Angle was on like the Stone Cold show, and he said like the most functionally strong person he had ever wrestled was John Cena. And that's how I think of Bianca Belair, like functionally strong. Like, yeah, she's obviously, like powerfully built, I guess would be a way of saying. Like she is not petite, she is not thin or anything like that, but she's also not like 7 feet tall and like, Andre or anything or anything like that. But I mean, you can tell like the strength that she has, she can use 100% of it.
Yep.
And it is that's what makes it frightening, is just seeing that explosiveness come out of a person. You're like, whoa, okay.
Right.
Dang.
Right.
You can actually, it's like, the average person uses 20% of their brain. Oh, you're using 100? Damn.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm just going to go sit in the corner and drool now. I thought that I was not ready to like Nikki Cross in this match. I was not ready, because I was just like, okay, yeah, we're getting the crazy person, and she did the crazy thing, and I got to say, I did enjoy her entrance where she climbed. So that when they came out for the War Games, they have little cages.
Yes.
By the entryway, where they have the first person to go into the cage, to the main ring, come down, and then everyone else has to wait in the cages.
Right.
And so she comes out and she climbs on top of the little mini cage. And then I love how Rhea Ripley is doing like pull-ups.
Yeah. Then,
in there, and I'm like,
then you have that surreal scene. She's doing pull-ups, and then Nikki is kind of like slowly, like, kind of balancing her way, like, with her arms into the cage, like swinging into the cage, so she doesn't hit Rhea. It was just funny.
Oh my gosh, it was just. But when she came in, and I mean her offense, meh. I mean, she does kind of the flailing berserker thing.
Yeah.
But there were moments when she got up on top of the cage and she's just sitting there like laughing. I'm like, oh my gosh, she is such an agent of chaos. I'm kind of digging this.
Yeah.
Like, if you can find a way to kind of refine this a little bit, you could have something really interesting here. Like, you just have a wrestler who's neither a heel nor a baby face, like will swing one way or the other just depending on which way the wind's blowing. That could be kind of cool. All right. Like,
well, she is coming off of a gimmick where she was pretending to be a superhero, a la the Hurricane.
Well, and that's right. I forgot that was the same person. I was trying to remember if that was the same person, because I was like, is this the superhero girl or not? But okay, so that actually connects a few dots for me. But I really like the fact that she just sat up at the top of the cage, was laughing, and then she like dove off and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought, of course, Bayley was great. I've come around big time on Bayley's character. I think she's so good at just kind of like influencing a match without having to be omnipresent.
Yeah.
In an environment like that. I thought that was great.
I like the whole gimmick of her laying a table between the two rings and then sliding the table across the ropes and trapping Bianca. Like, first of all,
so good.
Hitting Bianca in the gut with it and then kind of trapping her so she can't get out was really well done.
Yep.
Just real quick, since you mentioned Nikki Cross, I have a note here. I wrote, Nikki Cross is Captain Insano.
Oh, so, yeah. Actually, more like the Water Boy when like that same sort of thing.
Oh my gosh.
I thought Alexa Bliss actually did really well in this match. I you know what, man?
All the ladies had a good showing.
Oh yeah,
minus Io Sky. Io Sky, something was off there. Something was off.
Yeah. Although I will say this, Becky Lynch. I love me some Becky Lynch. I think the character is great. The whole the man, sort of like mystique and all that is great. Some of her offense just does not look fantastic.
Really?
like it didn't match up because quite honestly, and not to pull a call, and I am going to put my hands up like Stone Cold always does in his show, not to, but everything else looked really snug. Everyone else was looking real snug in this.
Yeah.
Like, there was not a lot of gap in this. And she comes in and it was sort of like, it just doesn't look as good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was her first match back from injury, so maybe that has something to do with it.
No doubt. And it's a very tough thing to kind of get some technical stuff over in this. Like by the time she got into the match, a lot of that technical aspect of the match was long gone. Now it's a brawl.
Yeah.
Because she was one of the last entrants in. But I mean, I got no complaints with this match. There was a lot of fun going on in there. The double suplex from Bianca.
Oh yeah, that was impressive.
Was sick.
That was impressive.
I'll tell you right now, my rating for this 4.5 stars.
Nice.
4.5 stars out of 5.
Nice.
Favorite match of the night.
I will agree with you on that front. A couple other notes I have, as I texted Uncle Todd, positions 3 and 4 for both teams that came in. I dubbed the honorary Dudley slots because the tables, the ladders, and the chairs came out on.
Oh yeah. Well, no, they didn't have chairs in this one. The chairs were for the guys.
You're right. And
so
Lord knows Kevin Owens had a problem finding him. But
so need to draw that guy a map. He was having some difficulty.
Poor Owens. But it was kind of funny how team member 3 and team member 4 were clearly on equipment duty in this match, going under the ring, pulling stuff out. I was looking forward to seeing kind of what was going to be done here. I'll be honest, both of these, not to jump ahead to the men's match, but I got to be honest, both of these matches kind of a little subdued with the weapons a little bit. I was expecting a little bit more, just given what past War Games matches have been like.
But at the same time, the weapons, like the tables and the ladders, were nice. Like it added something to the match. It elevated it, but it elevated it just enough. They didn't need a lot of gimmicks. Like they had 10 wrestlers, not 10 ladies, not 10. They had 10 athletes in that cage who could all go. Yeah, a little tables, little ladders to kind of make things a little more chaotic and really kind of just make you go, oh my gosh, if this is what you're doing first match of the night, what the hell are we in for the rest of the night? But
yeah, but
they don't need a lot of it.
No, but the history of the format is, and I hate to say that this was, some of what I was looking forward to because it doesn't paint me in a good light, but quite honestly, there's in a match like that, there's going to be blood. There's going to be a little bit of some of that violence that you don't typically see in a normal match. And that's what I was kind of, now, don't get me wrong. We got some of it. Someone went through. I mean, I think they had a ladder spot with the ladder cracked in half. Which looked really impressive. People went through brutal tables. That looked impressive. I have a note here and got to call this out. Rhea Ripley selling the absolute HE double hockey sticks out of out of Bianca Belair's DDT. I mean, she was literally standing on her head for a moment after taking that DDT and then just going over. I mean, it was
Rhea Ripley is
sell job.
And I've said it before, I think like a couple of years ago when we talked about the ladies division. I don't know, like with her and Charlotte Flair, how do you get a title off of them?
Yeah.
They are so physically dominant. And honestly, like Rhea Ripley has gotten better.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like I
she looked like a monster in that ring.
Unabashedly follow her on Instagram only because I love how her interactions with fans around the ring, like when she's been working with Judgment Day and stuff. Like apparently there was one spot where she got thrown out of the ring and she's laying on the mats outside and reached under the barricades and untied someone's shoe.
I remember that. Yes.
Just as a goof, I'm like, oh my gosh, how can you? Even though she's a heel, like how can you not love this person's? Like this person is just a performer.
Yeah,
like it's amazing. Like she's so having fun. I'm like, that's what you want. You at the end of the day, you want people to like be enjoying what they do.
Yeah,
At least I do.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, she was fantastic. And the way that she sold the green mist.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, like $1 million.
Oh yeah.
Like $1 million.
Yep.
Oh, so good. And that's what's it's not just the move, it's who's selling it.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, it was Becky's DDT, not Bianca Belair's, but
okay,
nonetheless. I have a note. Dakota's double stomp on Mia in the middle of the two rings was crazy because there's no give in the middle there. So
it's just like a diamond plate.
That was crazy. Becky's leg drop on the trash can was sick.
And then the double leg drop to end. Oh, that's a hell of a long way. I'm sorry.
The 7 lady.
That's one of those deals where you're like, you know what? I'm going to take care of people, but I'm also going to make sure I land on you because I'm not missing this sumbitch and landing flat on my tailbone.
Yeah.
So you better be braced.
Yeah. What was amounting to a 7 lady pile up in the corner. I thought they were going to do some like ridiculous like suplex spot with all 7 of them.
I heard that called the Tower of Doom or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was great.
Io Sky, she did have a moonsault toward the end that was insane.
Yeah, that was off the top of the cage. That was
top
great.
Of the cage. That was well
saved
done.
Him.
And then I don't remember this vividly, but the Rhea Mia ladder spot, whatever that was, maybe that's the one where it split in two.
I think that is,
was just sick. But yeah, the finish with Becky basically putting away the tag champs was impressive. So just 4.5 stars. I mean, all around, this was a solid outing by the ladies on this one.
Yeah, and the thing is, like I was not bored. I mean, granted, first match of the night, so you're fresh going into it and all that. Not a moment when I was bored.
I was down in my basement doing reorganization work while this was on, just kind of making notes here and there, and I was glued to it.
Yeah.
When it started, I was glued to it. I wasn't doing anything other than watching that match, and I was like, holy crap, what is going on here?
Yeah. Yeah, just no idea what's going to happen next.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which is what you want. That's what you watch this stuff for, is the little mini drama to play out, and they did it so well.
Oh yeah.
All right, so match number 2 of the night.
Mm-hmm.
It might as well have had John Cleese come out and say, and now for something completely different. We had AJ Styles versus Finn Balor in a battle of the Bullet Club presidents, I guess you want to call this. You know what? I'll say right out front, this to me is the difference between Vince and Triple H, or just kind of the way that WWE was almost like doing things on autopilot, or the way that they've done them historically. Because I've watched a lot of Brian Zane's pay-per-view reviews, classic pay-per-views and all that. And you can see in different pay-per-views, not just WWF or WWE, but WCW and others, they'll do this thing where they'll have like, it seems like every match, or like 80% of the matches from a card, will have a similar finish.
Mm-hmm.
And you just wear that out. I am so glad that they put this match second, and then allowed Styles and Balor to really just be like, you know what? Go out there and do your thing. And we're going to give you, I don't know how long this match went, but it was not a short match, for sure.
No, I think it probably went about 20 minutes.
And the first 5 or 7 minutes of this match are pretty slow.
Yep.
Not slow as in like, oh my gosh, I'm bored, but like they took their time and almost like gave you this moment to like, it was like that sorbet in between courses to be like, okay, come, let the adrenaline drain out a little bit. Now we're on to something new, and let us build, rather than you expecting we're going to keep you at that high that you were at, because it's something totally different. And I think that's a great choice in terms of just booking the matches the way that you did, and then also just the choices that Styles and Balor made as performers, and obviously like really good performers. Like, holy crap.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are magic, And actually, I think it's great how the match really did. It started off slow. It built throughout. And then we also got both entourages removed from the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And they stayed removed. Like, there was no run in. There was no, oh my gosh, they're back, or anything like that. They just brawled out into the crowd, and then they were gone.
Yep.
And then it's just the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that, because it's not what I'm used to seeing from WWE in the past, from what I remember with us watching. It was always run-ins and this and that and the other. It was great to be just like, holy crap, a clean finish. Mm-hmm. No shenanigans, no run-ins, no this, no that. Like, damn. It's amazing what you can do when you just let two guys who are really good at what they do do what they do. Holy crap. Somewhere Vince is like, grinding his teeth like, there should have been a chair, or something,
Right.
Couldn't we have had someone levitate in? But anyways, I enjoyed the hell out of this match, even though, again, it was a severe downshift.
Yeah.
From the first match.
Yeah.
It was great. What'd you think, sir?
No, this lived up to what I hoped it was going to be. It was a great showcase of both men and their respective skill. Loved how they played up the back and forth. A lot of reversals, a lot of at one point I think my younger son came down and watched some of this match, and he got a kick out of the them trading Pele kicks to each other was hysterical. Styles landing a solid kick, and then Balor getting up and nailing a similar style kick on Styles, and just seeing how the two of them just kind of their respective, I know I've said styles quite a bit here, but their respective styles, really complement each other well. And it was just so interesting to see. And so I really enjoyed it. Thought it was really well done. And the notes that I just have, great brawl with both entourages, like you said, nasty suplex into the turnbuckle by Styles on Balor.
Oh, that was fantastic.
And you saw it.
I
don't
remember seeing that.
Yeah.
In any other match. I'm like, that's the first time I remember seeing that match. And like, now I'm like, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah.
Like, how do I make a suplex more devastating? Meet a turnbuckle.
Yeah. Basically.
Holy crap.
Basically. Yeah.
And both of these guys looked like red as like fully cooked lobsters afterwards.
Yeah, Styles' chest was all torn up, and Balor's back was all torn up. I mean, they both looked like absolute hell after the match. And and honestly, the thing that I found the most impressive, and it's funny to say this, is we had a clean finish. We didn't have a screwy finish to end this match because we wanted to protect one or both of them. It was Styles was just the better man that night, and that's not a bad thing. It doesn't do anything to Balor. It doesn't make Balor a worse competitor. He fought. It was a very back and forth and very even match, and that's sometimes what competition is. You have a guy or a team who gets just a little bit better than their opponent, and they're the ones who win. And so I like the fact that they just went with the the forearm finish by Styles, and just landing and solidly landing it, and just it just came off as a really competitive match between these two guys, and you came away seeing why they're both kind of viewed as experts or masters in their craft, basically because of what they were able to do there. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really well done match. I gave it a 4.25 stars. It didn't, the lady set the bar. It didn't quite meet that bar, but it was really everything I was hoping it was going to be, and a little bit more. So I had to give it a 4.25.
I went with a flat 4 stars just because I love the match.
Yeah.
It's one of those deals where it's like, oh, well, what's the difference between an A and an A+? Well, in reality, not that much, but in theory, a whole lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not even there's no shade at this. This was a great match. And if this as a main event, yeah, sure. Put a title in there and that's a main event match.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's no title, and that you can, and again, the crowd was into this.
Yeah.
It was compelling.
Yep.
And like you said, like no screwy finish. And it was just like one guy was the better guy that night.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my gosh, I could go for another 4 weeks of this and then give me a rematch of this. And then maybe you give me a screwy finish. You give me Balor a win over it.
Yeah.
And then like, let's go to a rubber match in another 2 months. I'm good with that. Damn, that'd be, I'm fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like these guys are great, and this is again, and not to dig on Vince, but you know what? Screw Vince. he did some shady stuff, and he kind of turned out to be a scumbag. Whatever, Vince is going to be fine. He's, I think Vince is all right with his golden parachute that he's taking out of this whole thing. So I'm all right taking a couple shots at him. But this is the sort of thing that, like, it's nice to see. Even though, I mean, it's kind of funny when we talk about Triple H, and how he appreciates the talent, and he's giving us kind of this different creative direction. Of course, this is a creative direction that we need to point out Triple H didn't necessarily do with himself when he was an active wrestler, as we've heard from the quote unquote reign of terror, after he's married to Steph. And it's like, oh, gee, imagine that. Triple H is going over all the time.
Yeah.
Huh. Imagine that. The boss's son-in-law is going over yet again. But man, it's great to see something like this.
It is.
Just a straight up good match, clean finish. Yes. May I have some more, please? Is all I have to say. And then after this, we had to hit a little bit of a road bump, speed bump, I guess you could say.
I don't got much to say about this one, honestly.
I've got quite a bit to say, actually. Next up for the SmackDown Women's Championship, we had Ronda Rousey defending her championship against Shotzi. So here is my thing.
Yeah,
I like Ronda Rousey. However,
I don't.
However, I like Ronda Rousey because the fact that I remember Ronda Rousey, like peak Ronda Rousey from MMA, when she would give that like that stare, and you knew like the other person is like, okay, they're pretty much dead. Like she had that intimidation factor and was just a badass. And then of course that kind of went away, and then she went into wrestling. And she kind of carried some of that with her. The problem that I have here is that basically Rousey, she gets a strong pop for entrance. Because people are like, oh my gosh, it's Ronda Rousey. And of course, I mean, that Joan Jett song that they've given her, like, damn, who doesn't like that? Like, oh my gosh, that makes me want to get up off my couch and pump my fist. And I know that if I do that at the age of 46, I'm going to have back problems tomorrow. And I'm still willing to do it. That's the level of how over that song is. Just in terms of a rock song, like, damn, that's good. Then she kind of stays strong till about 2.5, 3 minutes into the match. And then all of a sudden she's got go away heat because everyone's like, oh yeah. And this is what we're getting. So in spite of that deficit that we're working from, I actually thought it was a pretty good match overall. Yeah. I actually think it was a pretty good match, mostly because I think Shotzi was carrying a lot of it. And by that, I don't mean that she was like getting in all the offense. I think she was making Ronda Rousey look like $1 million. And I've enjoyed seeing Shotzi a couple of years ago when I was actually catching wrestling once in a while, and I actually enjoyed. Oh my gosh, she's now Ruby Soho in AEW, wasn't it? Ruby Riott.
Yeah. Yep.
I really liked her because I thought that the two of them were like premier bumpers. They made whoever they were against look like $1 million. Now, of course, with Shotzi getting into kind of contention for a championship, now it's like, okay, it's the same Mick Foley thing. Like, you can make everyone else look good, but now you need to make yourself look good. I think she did a pretty good job here. She made herself look pretty good, and she really made Rousey look good with her selling of different submission moves and all that. Good God, Rousey is like not good at getting heel as a heat. Like, I don't know what to. Like, it feels like anyways,
here's the problem with Rousey.
Okay, please, yes, save me from myself here because I feel like I'm digging a hole.
No. And this is why I think she has what is called go away heat, as opposed to actually being a bad guy that people are invested in wanting to see. Get their tail kicked. Is she comes out and I get what they're trying to do with her. They have her play this overconfident, I'm better than you sort of heel that is, toying with Shotzi through most of the match. The problem is when you watch the match, you see that Shotzi is clearly way more skilled than Rousey is.
Yeah.
and is really, there's one point in the match where she tries to do this move, and Uncle Todd texts me and like, what the heck was that?
Yeah.
And,
oh no.
And I could tell you right away, seeing the way they were positioning themselves and what Shotzi was trying to do, the way her body was moving, was I think they were trying to go for a modified DDT on the outside ring apron, which would have looked devastating. And would have given the overconfident Rousey character probably, seeing stars and give Shotzi an opening to make a play for really beating her. And instead it turns into this like complete car wreck, which is nothing to do with Shotzi and everything to do with Rousey not, really positioning herself and taking the bump the right way.
Well, yeah, because she held onto the top rope. That was something that after I read it, I think it was on Bleacher Report, their rundown of the thing. I'm like, oh, that's what she did. Yep. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're totally right. But I mean, they didn't show a replay of it, of course.
Of course, because you don't want to see the fact that it's like, like her basically,
oh, wait a minute. You mean that looks like the drizzling shats, as Uncle Corny would say?
Good Lord. And so, yeah. And so when what was funny was when Rousey ends up winning, and I forget if I think she got a submission win or something like that. I mean, the crowd was just booing her because it's just like, you don't belong here. We don't want you here. We want to see, someone like Shotzi win, and we're pissed that she's not the victor here. And some of that is, maybe to Rousey's credit, playing the overconfidence, but
no, it isn't. No,
people do not like to see her, and I think,
well, no, they like to see her initially, but then when they remember, like, oh, and by the way, Ronda Rousey, hey, yeah, cool entrance. Oh yeah, she's a badass. And then, oh yeah, I forgot, you suck as a wrestler.
I think, I think there's a stigma attached to her because she was, rocketed to the top because of who she is. And it'd be one thing if she came in like a Brock Lesnar and showed an aptitude for the craft, because for as much as Lesnar has dominated the men's division over the last decade, things that I'm reading now about him, because I've often wondered, he's much of a loner. He just comes in to do his work and then leaves and isn't really one of the boys or whatever. But he has a real understanding and aptitude for wrestling.
Oh yeah.
And outright refuses to do some things sometimes because he doesn't believe it's the right thing to do because of what would work for the crowd. Not about putting himself over, but what would work as a dynamic for the crowd.
Which actually plays into an interview with Heyman when he talked about when he first started talking with Brock about stuff.
Yeah.
And like the first couple opponents that he picked after working with Heyman, and it was like Funaki, and I forget, like there's a couple like smaller guys.
Yeah.
And Heyman's like, oh, you think he's a big muscle-headed dummy? He's not.
No, he understands the business and what you need to do to have really good dramatic matches. Now, somewhere along the way, and I'll blame Vince because he was at the helm, a lot of the back and forth that he had with Roman Reigns was just strange. Like some of those matches were just strange. They had strange endings to them, made no sense whatsoever. I don't think it's Brock's fault, right? But Rousey goes in there, and however they're positioning her, it just isn't working. And they need to do something else with her. They need to either rebuild her character or rebuild, some aspect of her as a character so that she can come across with the fans, not necessarily as a face or as a heel, but just as someone who you actually care about seeing wrestle.
Well, so I like the idea that they paired her up with, oh my gosh, what's her?
Shayna Baszler? I think that's phenomenal. I think that's a phenomenal pairing.
However, the problem is neither one of them can talk worth a damn.
Well,
neither one of them are good promo. Neither one of them are good, like, trash talkers. Like, Rhea Ripley is a good trash talker. Like, you listen to her, and, like, even just people, like, yelling out in the crowd where someone was like, I'm your poppy, and she just turns like, no, you're not. And just the way that she said it, like the phrasing and the tone. And this is off mic. This is just like a off the cuff reaction to someone in the crowd, like behind her. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she just delivered a 10 performance. Like Ronda Rousey wishes she could have that kind of a moment on the mic.
Yeah.
The two of them together are great. But oh my gosh, if one of them could actually talk, or one of them could actually get heel heat in the correct way, so that it becomes like, I want to see this person get beat rather than just like, just go away, just leave us,
right?
That would be nice.
And some people have done the overconfident champion very well.
Totally. Kurt Angle.
I mean, I've been watching a few like clips and things from AEW. If you look at Kenny Omega, phenomenal, arrogant heel, phenomenal, but goes into the ring and has these amazing matches with his opponents and puts on a real show. And it isn't a one-sided affair. It's it very much has a Ric Flair kind of vibe at times where he, gets his tail kicked, but comes back and is, because of the excellence of who he is as a wrestler, really like I can't articulate it the right way, but some guys know how to project that, or some wrestlers know how to project that really well. Yeah. And he's one of those people. Rousey is not. Rousey comes out and she looks like sometimes she's going through the motions. She looks like she doesn't look comfortable sometimes. And, honestly, there was a real difference in body language between her and Shotzi. Shotzi looked totally confident, and even when she was getting her tail kicked, she just there's a confidence that's there in what she's doing. And I don't see it in Rousey, and I don't know, what they need to do for her, but this one I had the fewest number of notes for because I went back to reorganizing my cellar. And I gave this one 2.5 stars. I'm like, enough. I did not like this match at all. It sadly it was a title match, but it was just a poorly executed one. And something needs to be done with Rousey. She needs to somehow change some aspect of who she is and what she's doing in there and get more comfortable, because she just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't seem like she is.
So here's the thing. I agree with you. I think, however, all that being said, as much shade as I've thrown at Rousey, I think it made sense for her to retain and for her to get the win here.
Sure.
Because it would have been weird if Shotzi had won it. It would have been another repeat of when what's her face, Nikki Cross got the championship kind of and then held it, and that didn't end up going anywhere because you don't really have anywhere to go with that character yet.
Yep.
So I think it makes sense, and then maybe this is going to develop into more of a feud, and we can eventually get to a point where Shotzi does take the belt. Yeah. Or maybe just that she gets more into that realm and we see something go on with that down the road. I think the smartest, and I think this might be where they're at, especially considering that we have someone who's more willing to kind of go in a different direction now, running creative. You have to utilize Rousey right now, because I'm guessing that they have a significant financial investment in her. I'm guessing that she's still selling merch. Like I said, like the entrance in the first few minutes, yeah, you're getting a pop. But you got to figure some way to get the belt off of her. Because you put the belt on her, or Vince put the belt on her, whoever put the belt on her, and now you got to figure out a way to get it off of her that isn't going to completely burn that bridge, but is also going to elevate the next person instead of just be like a hot potato and like, we got to get it off this person because they're horrible. Here's the idea that I think what they should do after they get the belt off of Rousey. And Paul, if you're listening to this, take this one for free. After this, if you want to cut me in for a little bit of the gross, whatever, I'm not too proud to take a check. What I think they ought to do is after they get the belt off of Rousey, they ought to have her come out and her and Shayna cut a promo where they're going to still play the we're better than everyone else and just go pure MMA. And so, you know what? Now everyone's on the list. We are going to run down our list and we are going to show everybody here what real fighting is, and have them come out and just ambush people and put them into submission holds, knock them out, whatever, like just pure MMA straight up, like knockouts or submission. And that's what it's all about. And they just, and they go through the entire division trying to do face, heel, doesn't matter. They're just trying to take everyone out. And maybe even it goes to a couple of the guys. That would be a gimmick that you could then kind of keep them out of the title picture and still keep them active. Other than that, I don't know what you do, because at this point, I don't think Rousey is really going to learn any new tricks. I just don't. Well, she's been in the business this long. I mean, is she really going to turn over a new leaf? That's like that'd be like the one last chance. Like, if you can't get over with this, I don't care how much merch you're selling, we got to let you go.
Yeah.
Because you're just you know what? You can keep pulling in those checks, but you know what? You're not getting within sniffing distance of a title.
Yeah, I mean, I think your idea is a good one. I think it would establish, it has the potential to establish her in a similar way of what Lesnar is, because there is, you know, where she lacks in size in terms of what Lesnar has naturally in terms of size. It would establish her as a legit, you know, kind of, you know, real badass in terms of fighting. And I think that's the problem is Rousey was rocketed to the top too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't, and you said she's been in the business for a while. She really hasn't, which is, I think, her problem. She had a year run, and then she disappeared to have a kid, and then she came back.
Yep. Which, I mean, nothing wrong with having a kid.
No, and yeah, not at all. But the point is, put a few years in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like be around it, and don't be rocketed to the top right away.
Yeah, I guess what my point is that she's been around long enough now, and with her age, I mean, she's not a spring chicken.
Yep.
At what point, and also with the massive amount of financial, you know, assets that have been thrown her way, what motivation is there for her to really change?
Quite honestly, then she shouldn't be in the business. Honestly, like,
well, there's a lot of folks who shouldn't be in the business if that's the case.
Like, Lesnar comes in and gets his paycheck, right, and does his one match or you know, comes in for a few shows, but he's doing what I think makes sense for the business. You know what I mean, and for what he needs to do in terms of the person he's working with.
Well, yeah, he's kind of that rare exception,
right,
for sure.
And I just I'm saying this only because there was definitely a difference in the reaction she got from the crowd than other villain characters that night. You know what I mean? Like, there was just legit disgust, like, just enough. We don't want to see you anymore. Yeah. And it's a shame. And it is a shame, because I think they could be doing some really good stuff with her and Baszler together, honestly.
Oh yeah, totally. So as a tag team, or just as a couple of people who are just going out and just want to kick some ass now. They're just pissed.
Right.
And it's like, I don't even care about a title anymore, because your title, that would be actually the greatest thing. You should come out. I don't even care about your titles anymore, because they're fake. I don't even want them anymore. I just want to make people tap or take a nap.
Yep.
That's it.
Well, exactly. Like, put some distance between her and in championships, have her create an aura about herself. You know, I look at a guy like Samoa Joe, who's in AEW right now. Samoa Joe was respected because when he comes down to the ring, you know, he is not, you know, a muscular specimen, but he is a guy who comes down, looks like he's, you know, just, you know, woke up on the wrong side of the bed, goes out there and has really good matches with people. And that's the key, is having really good matches. And I think that's what plagues Rousey, is she doesn't have really good matches. She goes out and she does her MMA stuff with people who, you know, try to make her look good.
Which is fine, but yeah, you have to get the other side of it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, that's how you build, you know, one of the reasons why Styles and Balor was so good is there was really good give and take. There was really good back and forth. There was complementary, you know, styles of you know, moves and ways that they were working. And it was a very different match, it felt like. You know, I mean, even when we get to the triple threat match here, that had a better rhythm. You know what I mean? Like, there just wasn't a rhythm in this match. And it, you know, I feel for the Shotzi character, because, you know, it could have been a real character builder for her. And it really, you know, at the end of the day, she looked good, but I mean, it didn't do much. I think it was a real character builder. I think that she still managed to look good. And I gave this a rating of 3 stars. All right.
Which is, you might, I mean, I think your rating is totally appropriate. I'm giving this, and I would have normally, being less, granted, this is my first pay-per-view back, so maybe I'm a little bit optimistic and giddy. But I probably inflated this rating by an entire star solely based on Shotzi's skill at selling and making Rousey look as good as she did. Because I think Rousey actually looked fairly good considering what I was seeing. And from just experience of like I'm no wrestling expert, but I'm like, ooh, your opponent really helped you there. You know, they really made that look good, you know, that sort of thing. I'm actually probably inflating that entire star rating just on Shotzi's ability to make Rousey look good. So
yeah,
totally get what you're saying.
Man, I thought that Rousey one was going to go really quick. I didn't realize we were going to spend 25 minutes.
No, me neither. Me neither.
For being a match I didn't care about, we talked an awful lot about it.
Yes, indeed. All right, well, let's move right on to our next match, which was a triple threat match for the United States Heavyweight Championship, which I love how they're billing this now as the U.S. Heavyweight Championship, trying to elevate it.
Oh, yeah.
Although I feel like it's in danger of like overshadowing the Intercontinental title, which was like the top second tier title. I mean, well, it was the only second tier title for God only knows how long until we got the European title, which now I'm pretty sure is that even a thing anymore? Is that just like NXT Europe or something?
They might have a UK title, but I thought I don't know, they introduced and then defuncted a bunch of titles within a short span, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. But so this was Seth Rollins as the champion. I'm sorry, pardon me, Seth freaking Rollins, the champion, defending against Bobby Lashley. Oh my gosh, Seth Rollins. I can't even get to the intro, and the man they call Tim is singing the Seth Rollins theme, which quite honestly was great because the Boston crowd just randomly would start singing that.
Oh yeah.
In the middle of the match, and Rollins was playing it up, like conducting like they were the Boston Pops. I was like, it was gorgeous. And it's one of those moments where I'm like, this is why wrestling can be so great, because it gets back to some of that old school like sports mentality of like, it plays into like the European soccer thing, ole,
right,
and all the different songs and the chants and all that, and like the old school like mentality, like in the 80s of like, you know, when you get like chants in the arena because they didn't have all the sound clips and all that. And like, to me, that was like so amazing that just happened. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're doing it. Anyways, I haven't even gotten through the whole intro here. So Seth Rollins against Bobby Lashley and Austin Theory. This match, again, thank God for this match, because this really pulled me out of the doldrums after the last match. But I got to tell you right out front, I love the bit where Rollins went and then tossed Theory right out of the ring and then was like jaw-jacking with Lashley. Austin Theory climbs back in the ring, and they're just jaw-jacking back and forth, Lashley and Rollins, and then Lashley throws Austin Theory out the ring.
Yes.
I was like, you know what? Quite honestly, I think they missed an opportunity there, because I would have liked to have seen that go longer, like another 2 or 3 rounds of that, where they're just having a match, and every time Austin Theory goes to get in the ring, one of them just like, nah, out.
Oh, yeah.
Just keel hauls him out of the ring.
Yep.
That was so great. It was almost as good as like when in like Marvel movies where Hulk ends up like punching Thor out of frame. Like, I just love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. And it was a nice kind of way to start that match and have that sort of moment where like the third guy gets removed, but gets it done in sort of a comic way. So it's not like that, okay, now he's going to kill 5 minutes outside the ring with an injury or something. It was kind of cool. But yeah, that was great. You know, I think it's, man, it was such a contrast in styles.
Oh yeah.
You know, like Rollins, I felt like can kind of do everything. I think Theory has his bit of turf. Lashley certainly has like that super, you know, not super heavyweight, but like that just power move set.
Yeah.
But I think he worked really well with both of these guys, with the exception of, why in the hell does nobody have the flexibility to actually set up and take a pedigree correctly these days? Like, my God, Seth Rollins trying to deliver a pedigree to Bobby Lashley, I would have had a better chance of doing that to a wooden picnic table than Bobby Lashley. Like, I understand, like, the dude is just like all muscle, like 1.5% body fat, but good God, like, loosen up a little. like do like some stretches before you go out or something. Because I mean, he could barely like get in position so that Rollins like he's like trying to like mount a horse, like swing that other leg up over like that ham hock of a neck that Lashley has, and I'm like. And then he barely like as he kind of crumples to the ground because he can't take it clean because his musculature can't move that quickly. I'm like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Do that to Theory. Don't do it to Lashley. Like, find another move. Like, Lashley can't bend that way. But it was I thought it was an overall solid match. Like, it was actually a very entertaining triple threat match, which is one of my least favorite types of matches because, like I always say, it's like it's a one-on-one match with a third guy that has to disappear. And that's just, it rotates through who that third guy is. I felt like they did a good job of not really doing that in this match to a degree where I felt like it was so noticeable. Did you feel the same way, or did I miss something?
No, I thought this match had such a, like you said, it was such a difference from the prior one, and I felt like all three brought an intensity and an energy to it, that was just, palpable. And like you said, from the beginning, the whole treatment of Theory, and then just the way the action just kind of kept going. And I mean, I made a note at one point, Rollins just insanely just leaping out of both sides of the ring. He'd go to one side and he'd leap out and nail Lashley, and then he'd crawl in the ring and run to the other side and nail Theory, and then he'd do it again.
Oh my gosh, that was so great.
I mean, it was just like one thing after another, and it just felt.
Oh, and then him breaking up the pin attempt.
Yes,
like coming out of frame.
Yes.
Oh my God. Yep. I popped so hard for that. I jumped up off the couch. Yep. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. That's unreal.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And just the way they kind of chained moves together. I made a note, I think it was kind of toward the end, but Theory was trying to pin Lashley. I think Rollins broke it up, and then Lashley puts him in the hurt lock. And I mean, and
when at one point he had both of them in the hurt lock, which was
that's what it was. It was the double hurt lock. That's right.
Yeah, that was a little lame because
was funny.
It's like you guys should have really tested that out backstage because Bobby's arms aren't that long. Like,
well, it was like the inverse of the pedigree problem, right? It's like because of his musculature, he could actually pull that off. It's like
true, very true, very true. I could see him like, I'm going to do this to you, and the other guy's like, I don't know if that's. I'm going to do this to you. I'm like, okay, sure, whatever you say, Bobby, we'll give it a try. Well, because otherwise you're gonna like twist me into a pretzel.
And the finish though felt so natural because you had Lashley hitting the spear, falling over to the side, not like everything about what happened to him just felt organic. You know what I mean? He's recovering from the move. He can't get up fast enough. And Theory just the opportunist just gets on Rollins, gets the pin, and really kind of reaps the benefits of what happened, between his two opponents, and really nothing that he did. And so,
who was it? Who was it that? So it was Rollins stepped on Lashley or Theory to do a stomp on the other one.
I think it might have been Lashley because he did it to Theory.
Okay.
That
was an amazing moment when you saw again, talking about Forrest Whitaker, like you see him thinking things out in real time, and he's like, you could just see him kind of perk up, like, oh, this is going to be so awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
Like his character, like I'm like that was a great moment. But yeah, I totally agree. It was one of those things where I wanted Seth Rollins, and I mean, let's face it, like, okay, so if you're listening to this and you've listened this far and you're not a wrestling fan, first of all, thank you. Thank you so much for indulging us. We really do appreciate it. We'd really appreciate it. I mean, maybe you're stuck in a car with someone who really enjoys this podcast, in which case, thank you, and we're sorry. But if you're a mark, that means that you're just kind of like a fan and you don't know what's going on. If you're smart, then you kind of understand what the business is behind the scenes, even being smartened up to all of this stuff. I wanted Seth Rollins to win. Like I was more on the Mark side of that. Like I wanted him to win. Like it genuinely pulled me into being back into a pure fan to a very real degree. But yet, so Theory going over, getting the win, kind of like shocked me and pissed me off a little bit. And then I realized afterwards, I'm like, oh my gosh, you got me.
Yeah.
You actually got me. Like, damn you. That way to go.
And and there were boos in Boston. But again,
and they were almost boos with a smile. Like, you could almost see them like, boo, like, damn it, you got us.
Going back to the Rousey match, it was a different feel to it. You know, this wasn't Theory getting booed because they were pissed off and didn't want to see him. He, you know, like, and I don't know how much you kind of saw coming in, or I don't think they really previewed a lot of what's been going on with him, but he cashed in his Money in the Bank for the U.S. title. He lost.
Well, yeah, he was Vince's boy for a while.
Right.
He was
it was viewed as this, you know, like ridiculous thing. Why would you have his character do this? It looks so stupid. But this has been an inflection point for his character. His character was, you know, overconfident and goofy and doing, you know, all these selfie things and trying to be like, you know, Mr. Whatever. And now he is this focused individual. I mean, you know, he's still about himself and he's still playing that kind of heel character, but there's a little more stank in his step, you know, and he's out to prove something. And so
he's developed a mean streak.
Exactly. And so,
which I kind of got in this without knowing. I mean, I knew a little bit of that, but again, the best storytelling is the stuff where you can get limited information and go, yep, gotcha.
Yeah.
And I got it.
Yep.
Totally got it. Yeah. No. And the one thing I will say that the Theory needs to do is he needs to ditch all that, like that roll into every move.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, son of a bitch. I wanted to punch him so hard, and not like in a heel way. That was like go away heat territory for me, where I'm like, okay, enough with the rolling. Just do the move. All right.
Yeah.
Just do the move. Like, save that for once. I saw him do it like 2 or 3 times in this match. I'm like, all right, enough.
Mm-hmm.
Enough. I hope Triple H like takes him backstage and like is like, come here, show me your hand, and hits him with a ruler. Like, stop it. Stop it. Bad Austin. Bad Austin.
Don't do it anymore.
So I gave this 3 3/4 stars. I really enjoyed this match. I did not enjoy it as much as the Styles Balor match, but damn close. It was still way above average and very entertaining for me.
All right. I actually,
how about you, sir?
I actually went 4.5 on this one.
Damn! Look at you getting all generous.
I am.
You must have jumped upstairs from some Thanksgiving leftovers right before this one to make you that happy.
Well, I think I might have had some leftover meatballs from our appetizer meal on Friday. So, but no, I really enjoyed the match. It brought such an energy to it, and I think, you know, the outcome of it, you know, elevating the youngster and you know, just kind of the storytelling that went on in the match with him being kind of dismissed by the 2 veterans and so forth, I think was just really well done. And, you know, again, just the energy and dynamic of the match was just so different from anything else on the card. And it worked. The 3 of them just worked so well together. And so I felt it was, you know, it was on par with the women's match. It had that energy to it. It had that action to it, just a little bit different. And I felt it was worthy of the 4.5.
Yeah. And you know what? I can't really disagree with your assessment. I feel like this is a continuation of the feud. This wasn't a blow off. Like, I could definitely see this carrying onward and being very interesting going down the road, which is what you want. You want some feuds to end and you want others to just continue.
Exactly.
And this is, to me, is like, oh, this is the next chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So after this, we come to the final match of the night. This is the men's War Game match, which features the Bloodline, which is, of course, Roman Reigns, the Usos, and the honorary Us, Sami Zayn, versus Kevin Owens, Drew McIntyre, and the Brawling Brutes. Oh, and I'm sorry, Solo Sikoa on the side of the Bloodline.
Yes.
I don't know how I forgot that dude. Probably because, you know, he don't talk that much.
They're definitely grooming him with that Samoa Joe kind of vibe. You know, like
he's quiet, but no, he's scary.
Oh yeah.
But you know, so first of all, you know, I'm out front with saying that the women's War Game match was for me by far my favorite of the night, and I felt like this one was not anticlimactic. I would have been happy swapping those 2 matches and having the women's War Games match be the blow off of the night. I think it would have been, you would have blown the freaking roof off of that place. I get that they were really focused on the Sami Zayn Jey Uso dynamic. They did it well. But this match took an awfully long time to get going. Didn't have the same energy as a women's match. I get that they were really trying to get over the whole hand and joint manipulation with Butch and Jey Uso. And I get that, like, at home, that makes me squeamish. Like, that is, watching that stuff makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
In a very real manner. Because I'm like, are we getting into real territory here? Because that looks like that's not the way I would want to be bent under any circumstances.
We're not meant to bend that way.
Yeah, whether you're paying me or not, or whether we're friends or not. Like, I don't want to do that. I think the downfall of that is it's not the same for the crowd in the arena. And you could feel that the crowd in the arena lost energy, because even though they're watching it on the big screen, it's not the same as when you're watching it at home.
Yeah.
And I felt like you lose a little bit of that. Granted, I mean, it worked and it really played it up, but I felt like it dissipated the energy.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah. What do you think? Because you're a big fan of, like, technical and all this stuff. What did you think of that beginning of the match?
Well, I actually liked it because of the fact that it was, again, kind of showcasing where the War Games concept can go. That, the first really 30 minutes of the match are really what sort of damage can I do to my opponent. So that when we do get into the phase, which we haven't talked about this yet, but I absolutely love when the last person enters in, the announcer's like, "The War Games have begun," and I'm like, "Huh? Seriously?"
By the way,
yes,
serious props to the ring announcer. I feel ashamed. I don't know her name.
I don't either, unfortunately.
But oh my gosh!
Oh, she brought it.
Not necessarily. You know what? I'm not going to even try and compare to the Fink, because the Fink is in his own category. It was a different time and age. Oh my gosh, she brought it.
Oh yeah,
and had almost like, yeah, she was amazing.
Oh, she put some stank on it, no doubt. No doubt.
Oh yeah, there was a fifth gear that she would hit when. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Vince at home is like, even if he's not watching this, like a little tingle goes up
like,
his spine.
Infringement.
That's mine. But yeah, she was fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I hope she got an extra payout, just be like, you know what? Here's 5% extra. You brought a little something extra. You had a little something. You had a little something that you were saving. Like it. I felt like just
go ahead. No, just to finish my thought. So I like the beginning and how they're doing the manipulation part, the joint manipulation part. The problem is, and I think this is sometimes where the War Games concept struggles a little bit, because you have to book it the right way. The faces, the good guys had the advantage.
Yeah.
So when you have two good guys in the ring against a bad guy, there needs to be a little juice to it. And I think the problem was that even though it was Jey Uso in the ring and he was with Butch, who it really bothers me to say Butch because his name is Pete Dunne. He was known as Pete Dunne for 6 years at NXT, and Vince decided to call him Butch, something I hope Triple H rectifies here soon.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it seems like the Brawling Brutes are getting a little traction, so I think he might be Butch for a while.
And I don't know if they just put a lot of stock in like what you just said, that the Brutes are over. The crowd clearly loves them. But when it's two of them in the ring pounding the crap out of, Jey Uso, I just don't know that carried the right amount of, juice for it. You know what I mean? Like, and so when when it comes for the Bloodline to have their first member come out, everything about what happened in that smaller cage was absolutely hysterical and right on point.
Especially Roman Reigns' chair. Like, where did that come from?
Well, first of all,
did Heyman bring it out with him and we just didn't
chair
notice?
Come from? Second of all, why would he sit? I mean, he's going to start cramping up. The muscles are going to. Oh my gosh.
Well, the funny thing is actually too, I remember, and I remember like the fact that Heyman wears the belts over his shoulders.
Yes.
I just remember the fact that he talked about in one of his interviews, like how he had to, like when he was with CM Punk and he's his advisor, that he didn't have to say anything. He's like, because Punk would say it all. So every time he would talk about the championship, he would just hold up the championship. He's like, and after like a couple minutes, that's really friggin' heavy. And so now the fact that he has both titles on the shoulder, I'm like, well, because Paul's like, I ain't holding those damn things up. That's a workout. I'm not doing that. But it's like, so he's got both titles. He's got Roman Reigns like little like chili pepper lay, whatever the hell that is. And then did he also have a folding chair coming out? Like, where did the chair? I want to know where the chair came from.
I don't know, but Roman was the only one sitting, and and so. So the other Uso brother is ready to jump out there, and he holds him back, tells him, no, you stay here. And he points to Sammy. He's like, you go, because Sammy's beefing with Jay. And that's the thing. This whole match is so centered around that disconnect or the beef that was going on with Jay and Sammy. And it may have been to the detriment of the match. I
think yes.
The storyline is good, and I'll get into why the ending was actually much better than I think people give it credit for. But I think when you send Sammy,
the man they call Tim means Uncle Todd.
I was trying to be nice about it.
Well, sorry,
but to send
20 years, you don't need to be nice. But it's all right.
But to send Sammy in as the number 2.
Yeah.
Sammy's great, but I don't know that it doesn't elevate the emotion of the crowd, because even though Sammy and Jay are at odds, they're not fighting each other. You know what I mean?
Well,
and they're fighting these other two guys, and they don't really have this, really vicious beef going on. So to me, that's kind of what was lacking a little bit, was the drama. The as Paul Heyman would say, why are these 4 men going to tear each other apart? You know what I mean? And that, I think, is what we were struggling with a little bit, was the why. We didn't have, some real strong storylines amongst some of the other characters, because this was kind of, the Brawling Brutes and and McIntyre and Owens was this kind of cobbled together team.
Yeah.
Sheamus had the biggest beef because he had been brutalized by the bloodline, but yet he was the last one to come into the match. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, Drew McIntyre's also got a beef because he was supposed to, that whole thing with Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I think that, and I texted this to you in the middle of the show. I was like, and actually, no, right after the triple threat match, I was like, unless this last match absolutely sucks, this has got to be one of the best pay-per-views I've ever seen. And I don't mean that in terms of like, oh my gosh, a holy bleep moment or this and that and the other. Just as far as like solidly booked all the way through, like all killer, no filler. Like there wasn't a ton of interviews that led to nothing. Like all the backstage segments that they had meant something and drove towards something. Now, I think the problem they had here is that in and of itself, like this match, solid.
Yeah.
I got no problems with it as far as an opener or even middle of the card or second to last on the show. No problem. But you put it in the main event and then you're expecting a little something more. And they didn't have that little something more. Excuse me. They didn't have that little something more that they could give.
Right.
Because it was really about Jay and Sammy.
Yes.
And Jay and Sammy and Kevin Owens. Really.
Yeah, Sammy and Kevin. And I'll be honest, I had read rumors that Owens was planned for this match, might be out because of a knee injury.
Mm-hmm.
When he came out, his ring attire, I have never seen him wear those kind of pants before.
So you're thinking there was a heavy duty brace involved?
I'm wondering if he was more hurt than they let on.
Could be.
Because
I mean, did he really go above and beyond in this match? I don't remember a ton of high spots with him. I mean, I think he was solid in the match. I don't remember there was anything where I'm like, oh my gosh, that dude looks like he's like 1.5 legs.
And the thing is, he was doing some high action stuff, but I'd have to go back and watch the match again to see like his movement, what he was doing specifically. I texted Uncle Todd and said, watch, I'm calling it. Owens is going to do something crazy. Owens didn't do anything crazy. He stayed on the ground.
Yeah, we had that one senton.
Yeah, he did a senton,
and even that wasn't normally. That's usually like a fairly mild move for him.
Yeah,
unless it's off of a forklift.
Yep.
As we saw in another pay-per-view.
Yeah, and so I don't know if something was up with him, but I'm wondering if for storyline purposes they were able to get him in kind of a reduced capacity to just kind of get the story over the hump in terms of what they were trying to do for this event. But that was something I noticed is his attire, the pants that he wore was very different from what he typically wear. He normally has these sort of baggy shorts that he wears to the ring. And
they played it off as like the Dusty Rhodes thing.
Yeah.
Like he was paying tribute to Dusty Rhodes, which I'm like, well, I mean, then you got polka dots, but I mean, I guess it was also like the jeans. I don't.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's the NWA Dusty Rhodes, right? That he was paying homage to, the WCW version, who was not polka dotted.
Yeah, but I mean, even then, I think he was still in regular trunks and then like the cowboy boots. Anyways, we don't need to get in the ring attire, but no, I totally get where you're going with that. That would make sense.
But that's where this match kind of fell maybe a little short of my expectations. Was I was expecting there to be some crazy high spots, considering the Usos, considering Owens was in the match. I was assuming this was going to be much more vicious, because of the fact that these two, these 10 men are just like at war with each other, like the bloodline. And you heard this when Sheamus came down to the ring, the bloodline storyline wise had broken his arm, so he had a recovery period. He came back. So I was just expecting there to be a little more vitriol and a little more nastiness in this match than what maybe we got with the women. And instead, it was the action was solid. Don't get me wrong. It's just, I think I may have set my bar a little high for what we actually got.
Well, and I think this is the problem that we run into, is because the default has been for so long that the men's division is the main event, women's division is sub-main event, occasionally main event. Like we when was it that we had the main event, women's main event at WrestleMania? That wasn't this past year. It was the year before, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago. Yeah, it was Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. Yep.
Yeah. That's just the default.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, you found yourself with the default being a storyline that you're really trying to push, that overall, it involves two of the top titles in the company and the top guy, some of the top guys in the company, but unfortunately, it's not the most compelling match. The most compelling match was the women's War Games match. Second would be AJ Styles. Third would be the triple threat for the U.S. Championship match.
Mm-hmm.
This is the fourth most compelling match on the card. And then, even though it's the fifth match, I'm going to put the Ronda Rousey Shotzi match at like 8, because I can think of at least a couple other matches just off the top of my head that would be more compelling than that one.
Yeah.
So you're in this position where, well, Reigns has got the top 2 belts in the company. It's got to be the main event. And you booked yourself into this point where you're like, well, we've got to do it. And I think given those constraints, they still managed to deliver a solid match. Like, quite honestly, on any pay-per-view that Vince was booking, this would still have been the match of the night.
Yeah.
Considering what else was going on. It just so happens that the product has been elevated and now we're in a different era. I think that some of the stuff that was done was not necessarily high. Some of the best stuff in this match was not the high spots. And that might be another thing that's makes it a little bit weird. Sammy breaking up the official's count, like just grabbing his arm, not pulling him out of the way, just grabbing his arm and stopping him from making the third tap. And then the pause of the official looking at him, Sammy looking at the official, looking at the other guys. That moment, like, I don't remember really seeing anything like that. To me, that was very unique. And it was like, okay, that's interesting. But then, of course, Sammy then giving the kick to KO, and then the Bloodline getting the win, basically opening the door like, okay, Jay, hit the splash, get the pin.
Yeah.
And doing that and then proving himself, like that all made it. The thing is, this match made sense. It wasn't like it was bad because it was off the rails, wacky and stupid. No, the entire match made sense. It just wasn't as good and compelling as some of the other matches, but it had to be the main event because it's Roman Reigns.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you kind of booked yourself into a little bit of a corner, and you're like, well, maybe we can make it emotional enough at the end that people will kind of view it as a whole.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, it was a great pay-per-view. And it was a fantastic pay-per-view. No regrets watching it and spending the time. But overall, I give this a 3.5 stars. It was not my favorite match of the night.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it's fourth in compellingness. But it was still really well done, I think.
Yeah, I having some time to process it and think about it, I ended up giving it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. What I think really did it for me was, as much as the Sammy, Kevin, Jey Uso story kind of maybe took away some of the expectations I had for the amount of violence and maybe high spots they were going to do, I liked how they played off of this. I mean, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens have been going back and forth for decades now. And I say decades seriously is almost 20 years. I mean, they've been going up and down the roads together, since the early 2000s. And so there's a lot of history there. And they leveraged that history really well in this match, because there was that moment when, you're wondering, is Sami gonna turn on the Bloodline or not, and then, like you said, when he stops that 3 count, and I'm always floored how they can get the timing of that stuff down so well on like in a live setting, in a live format like that.
Yeah.
Because my sons are watching this with me, and both of my boys just started laughing. Like, they thought it was the funniest thing to see. Like, this guy stopping a referee from counting was just so hysterical to them. Like, you can do that?
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't know you could do that.
Why doesn't everybody?
And then, like you said, like everything after that, like the time they gave that whole scene to breathe, between the incredulous look on the referee's face, Sammy staring at Kevin staring at Sammy. I mean, it was just, Roman staring at everyone, it was just like, it was so well done.
But it is that moment of like, you can do that?
Yes. Yes. And then when Sammy finally, delivers the, I don't know why they call it the haluva. I think it's the hell of a good kick, but whatever.
It's weird.
When he nails that kick, and then Owens just slumps in his arms like, Fredo.
Oh. Oh my gosh, yes.
I mean, that was phenomenal.
I knew it was you, Fredo.
It was phenomenal. It was so well done.
Yeah.
But to me, the cherry on it was not Zayn, Zayn's character taking the credit, but when he looked at Uso and he's like, there you go, it's yours. Yes. Like that really added some depth to the story, because now it's like, okay, he's mending the fence. He's trying to show where his allegiances are. And so I wasn't disappointed by the ending from a story perspective. I think I just went in with way elevated expectations on what I was going to see in the match. Because I'm thinking about, because people have to remember, I'm thinking about the 4 Horsemen, the Road Warriors, Nikita Koloff, like all these guys who started this thing. And I mean, they had vicious wars in this.
Well, it's like Mick Foley said,
and I'm thinking, I'm trying to project that, I think, too much.
Yeah.
Well,
it's like Mick Foley said in his biography when he was talking about, him and Sabu. They're like, people legitimately thought someone was going to die in the ring that night. Like you have to temper those expectations a little bit, sir. Not every. I mean, granted, a rumor has it that Ric Flair was busted wide open watching this somewhere, and nobody even touched him. Because he just loves to bleed.
He's like spontaneous, combusting drummer from Spinal Tap, except he just starts, he just like starts bleeding out of nowhere. So
he was wearing the crimson mask. It was what is it? It's stigmata. It's like if you start bleeding, like in a.
Oh gosh. That's funny.
Crazy. But funny. What did you end up giving this match? Sir,
I gave this 4 stars. I felt this was a solid outing. Storyline wise, it was very. I think if it had met the expectations I was coming in with, from an action and high spots kind of perspective, then I think I could have gone a full 5 on this one. I think it also might have generated the energy that may have been lacking a little bit, but because I think so much of it centered on the story that was being told, I think that's what kind of brought it down for me. Was it was a solid outing. We haven't talked a lot about it, but I think it was a good showcase of Solo Sikoa. I think they can do a lot with him. I really see him being kind of a younger Samoa Joe kind of character where he's.
I see him as Haku 2.0.
Oh yeah. I mean,
he's terrifying.
The whole thing where Owens was, I forget if he was hitting him with a chair over the head or something else, but whatever he was doing, and he just turned around and like the way he no-sold that was phenomenal, and that's where I really think, when you use matches like that to build credibility in some of the up and coming talent, I think that's really wise. So I gave it a 4. I thought it was a solid outing. The event overall, I think was somewhere between a 4 or 4.5. I didn't average my scores out, but I mean, it was, you said it best. It was probably one of the best events I've seen in a long time. It just top to bottom, really, really well done.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, you don't have to have a ton of matches. You just have to have really solid matches all the way through. And lo and behold, it's a fun evening spent.
Absolutely.
And another thing.
Well, sir, what do you have for and another thing? I've got to rush through this because I've got people in my home who are waiting for me to stop to keep my mouth shut.
I was going to say, are they giving you the stink eye right now?
This one. But what do you got for in another thing?
All right, mine will be
in under 20 seconds.
Mine will be quick. So I'm throwing out there The Walking Dead on AMC. It is not a something that's off in the corner that you don't know about. It just wrapped its series finale last Sunday. 11 seasons, I think in total, 12 seasons or so.
Dang.
And just through the years has just been a solid series. I know there's a lot of fans who really were turned off when they introduced the Negan character, but if you know anything about the comics and kind of the stories that backed what you saw throughout that, I thought they actually did a phenomenal job telling those stories, and actually, quite honestly, the Negan character as played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan really became one of the best redemption stories that was told, and done in a very genuine and sincere way. So I would just say if you haven't seen the series, you won't be disappointed. I mean, I'm not a big zombie person. It's not why I watched the show. I got into the show because of the stories, because of the characters, and similar to BSG, there's a lot of really good character driven storytelling going on in it. So if you haven't seen it, do check it out. It is really well done, and you will not be disappointed. The Walking Dead.
Very nice, sir. Very nice.
And you, sir, what is yours?
Well, we're going to go in a different direction. I've been recommending a lot of highbrow stuff lately. And actually, this is still kind of highbrow because...
we're going to the barrel on this one.
It's going to cost you a few shekels. But my and another thing is Wild Turkey Rare Breed Kentucky Bourbon. And this one has come up a couple of times because Uncle Tim was Uncle Tim. The man they call Tim. I'm stealing my own gimmick. My gosh.
Yeah, what do you call that?
I know. You usually call yourself that. But the man they called Tim was enjoying a few glasses of this during our last episode, which might explain a few things. But it is actually one of my favorite bourbons. Mm-hmm. And I think if you go back far enough in our archives, you'll remember that I was actually having a tot or two of this during an episode. And my comment, I believe, was like, I just want a candle that smells like this. It is such a wonderful smelling bourbon on the nose, a lovely taste. The remarkable thing is that it is a blended bourbon, using a combination of barrels that are aged 6, 8, and 12 years, which is no little thing. Those are some well-aged bourbons, but it's undiluted directly from the barrel. So you're getting bourbon that is not watered down, is not diluted for taste or anything like that. Like, it is exactly what you get out of the barrel. And so it ends up being about 117 proof, which, barrel proof, the funny thing is that's actually kind of on the weak side of barrel proof. Barrel proof is usually up around, I think the legal limit is like 125 proof for a barrel proof.
Wow.
And usually most barrel proofs kind of hover above 120 to 125. So 117 is kind of weak sauce, but it's, oh my gosh, it's so good and such a well-rounded flavor profile. And
I had the rye version tonight, and it's about 112 proof.
Oh, it's only 112. So I mean, still, it's kind of funny how it gives you a lot of flavor, but you still got to be careful because that wonderful flavor can be like, oh, and now I can't feel my feet.
Yes.
Given enough quantity, that'll happen. But I had a few tots of this on Thanksgiving Day because Turkey Day, wild turkey. I mean, it's a natural. And I was out of 101, so it was the only option, really, logically speaking. So, but if you have a chance to check it out, it's a little bit more expensive. It's around $50 a bottle here in Maine. So, whatever your price may vary, but I would suggest giving it a try if you are so inclined.
Very nice, very nice. We should all have a glass of this when we have Jimmy Dice on to talk about the Thrawn trilogy.
Oh my gosh, that episode would be like 4 hours long.
Oh boy.
It'd be rough.
Buckle up.
I'm still up for it though. Anyways, thank you all so much for tuning in. It's about that time for us to pack up our traveling interweb show and move on to the next digital town. We so appreciate you bearing with us this entire time. If you're a first-time listener and you made it to the end of this episode, my God, get yourself a drink on us. Seriously.
Bless you.
Thank you so much. We don't talk about wrestling every week. Well, actually, we kind of do in a roundabout sort of way, but we'd appreciate it. If you have not subscribed, be sure to go to freerangeidiocy.com, and you can find all of our episodes there. You can download them all right there. You can also subscribe to the Podbean app. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts. We are on Pandora. We are on Spotify. We're on Google Podcasts. Many other fine purveyors of podcasts. Just search for Free Range Idiocy. We're sure that you will find us. You can also find us on the social medias. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. We are on YouTube. All of those are at Free Range Idiocy. We used to be on Twitter, but F Twitter. And that's all I'm going to say because they locked us out and then Elon took over. And you know what? Screw that guy. Anyways, if you have any questions, thoughts, concerns, any ideas for a show, things that you would like for us to, talk about and have words flow from our mouth holes into the interwebs, as vile as that may sound now that I've said it, kind of turns my stomach, honestly. Send those ideas to Tim at freerangeidiocy.com, and we will he will get back to you forthwith, PDQ ASAP. I won't, because quite honestly,
this is Wii stuff. You have a mouse in your pocket?
Well, you wonder why I'm in such a good mood.
Oh,
anyways,
Lord.
I'm going to hand this show before things get too more sketchy. I'm going to hand this over to the less idiotic of the two idiots who run this show. That would be the man they call Tim, but not before I ask the second most important question in all of human history. The first, of course, I mean, if you've been around us long enough, you know. The most important question of all human history is what is hip. The second, of course, would be, the hell did we learn this episode?
We've learned the following, my friend. We have learned Christmas Story Christmas looks like to be a fun outing. Fun outing with Ralphie, Scut Farkas, and the whole gang. We'll see what happens. HBO. Check it out. We have learned Saw Geurrera. He had a reason for the lies, the deceptions, the everyday.
Got it. No.
We now know why he needed to get himself a Borgullet. So
just needs someone to talk to that he wasn't afraid was going to double cross him.
He does not lie. Oh yes. We have also learned WWE is in much better shape. With Triple H at the helm, and it has been an absolute pleasure seeing the Survivor Series event. Really bringing the War Games concept in was phenomenal, and it was just top to bottom a phenomenal card. However, we have also learned that when there's a match that we both didn't like, we will yammer on for 30 minutes about it.
Oh my gosh, I never saw that coming. All that time talking about Ronda Rousey.
I think we talked more about that match than we did the main event.
We did. I feel dirty.
Oh, well, and finally, ladies and gentlemen, we do appreciate the listens, the listenership, and the support.
Yes, indeed.
But as we like to close things out, be safe, be healthy, be kind, be good to one another. And, well, for no other reason than poor Uncle Todd's family needs to go to bed. Would you please hit the lights on the way out?
It's like I picked the wrong week to quit drinking.
I beg your pardon, what did you say?
You're such a disappointing pair. I prayed so hard for you. Get out. And don't come back until you've redeemed yourselves.
So say we all.
All of you relax. This is a matter of inconvenient timing, that's all. Police action was inevitable. And as it happens, necessary. So let them fumble about outside and stay calm. This is simply the beginning. I thought I told all of you I want radio silence until further...
I'm very sorry, Hans. I didn't get that message. Maybe you should have put it on the bulletin board. But I figured since I waxed Tony and Marco and his friend here, I figured you and Carl and Franco might be a little lonely, so I wanted to give you a call.
How does he know so much about this?
This is very kind of you. Yes, you are a mysterious party crasher. You are most troublesome for a security guard.
Sorry, Hans, wrong guess. Would you like to go for double jeopardy where the scores can really change? Oh, these are very bad for you.
Who are you, then?
Just the fly in the ointment, Hans. The monkey in the wrench. The pain in the ass. Ooh.
Wise man.
Get Sammy.
Yes, my tribal chief. I need a Pepsi.
Wise
yes,
man.
my tribal chief.
Give me the Jimmy John special. Yes, my tribal chief.
I don't know if that goes over with Roman. That was Brock's deal.
That's true. That's true. Brock did have it on his tights.
Now get the hell out of here!